Hello there, and welcome to Pink Milk, your Star Wars podcast for us superfans.
Forced to listen, I am.
Today is someday, and someday we're talking Xi'an is trans. Get ready, because it's time to drink up.
Up drink.
At least I'm alive. Rain on me, rain, rain, rain on me, rain, rain. That's all I get? You're not going to join in? This is a duet, Thomas. This is a duet.
It is.
But you're going solo.
No, I'm just listening. I'm forced to listen. Yet again, I'm forced to listen.
Star Wars, Lady Gaga, my husband, forced to listen to them all.
Ariana Grande, who I really like.
You do. We did see her. Never sat so far away from a concert stage ever before.
Let's be clear. We were in the room. We were in the concert venue, but I literally could not see her. They were free tickets. Thank you. And we were the very last row, all the way up in the highest section. I swear I couldn't see a thing.
Yep, not a thing. We didn't even stay the whole time.
Sounded good. Our sons fell asleep, so we had to go.
Oh, I was so afraid I was going to drop my 4-year-old down the concrete steps because that 4-year-old weighed a whole lot. He's 6 now, still weighs a whole lot. He's like a little brick.
Definitely.
He is like a brick. Well, hello there. My name is Bryan, your host. With me, as always, is my better half and your better host, Thomas.
Well, hello.
We are not a pop music / Lady Gaga podcast. We're a Star Wars podcast. We're Pink Milk. If you haven't listened to us, thank you for listening.
Drink up.
Drink up. We do lots of drinking of pink milk here and coffee. Sometimes some booze.
Sometimes.
Usually only if we're recording after 5 p.m.
True that.
So we have had a great week. It's been fun. I can't believe last Tuesday the debate was only not even a week ago now. This week has been
a long one.
A very long one.
Yeah.
A lot of things have happened. But we are pink milk half full kind of dudes, so we're going to talk about going to the movie theater.
Boom.
It was great. We saw a brand new movie that came out 40 years ago.
I hope they've heard of it.
It's called The Empire Strikes Back. Have you guys seen it?
I've heard about it.
It's fantastic. It's so funny. Every time I watch a Star Wars movie, I leave going, I can't believe how much I love this movie. I forgot how much I love this movie.
I can't believe it's a classic now at 40 years old.
That
Is it
makes
40
us
yet?
Classics, Thomas. We are two prideful, beautiful classics in pristine condition.
With a lot of wax.
Yeah, so, okay, we just saw The Empire Strikes Back. It's awesome. We realized as I was saving this file that we are on episode 39 of our podcast. That's a lot of podcasts.
It's incredible.
Thank you for being here, Thomas, for almost all 39 of them. So I have a question for you.
Talk to me.
You have seen this 40-year-old movie a few times, but you had not seen it since being on a Star Wars podcast. Did you see it any differently?
Yes, I noticed a lot of things I never noticed before.
Like Darth Vader took his helmet off before? Remember that episode, like 34 or something, where Tom didn't remember that Darth Vader took his... Oh, no, it was with Lacey Gillerin from the Resistance broadcast. And she was on, and Tom's like, Darth Vader took his helmet off?
Not only that, but the Emperor mentioned to Darth Vader that Luke was the offspring? He said something.
Son of
Anakin Skywalker. Missed that part too. 40 years worth of missing it.
So there is some new dialogue in that scene for the Blu-ray release that came out whenever that did, 2000... 10?
So is there a chance it was not there and I
There
didn't
is
miss
a
it?
chance. I'm trying to
Okay.
remember because so the original back in the day, which we have on DVD, because I thought it was an official release at some point in time that they tweeted at us with this information, because I'm sure somebody listening remembers, but I have a original unedited version on DVD that I'm almost certain is legal. But back then, the Emperor, the one that we saw when we were children growing up, was a lady playing the Emperor, and they took her eyeballs out and put the eyeballs of baboons in her head to make that hologram, and it was very weird looking and very
Serious?
awesome. Pretty
Wow.
rad.
Okay.
And then so they shot this, I believe, when they were shooting Revenge of the Sith. They shot this scene to put into it. So he looks closer to the Emperor from Revenge of the Sith than he does the Emperor from Return of the Jedi.
Okay.
So it's cool. I mean, I love seeing Ian McDiarmid there. I think it's awesome. I think it helps bridge the thing. I do think it makes it really awesome when he says the son of Anakin Skywalker, and you know that face that he's talking to, and that whole dialogue, that whole relationship is so different now, because if you think about when we saw that scene originally, that was the first time we had seen the Emperor. We had heard his name, but we didn't really know anything. And now that has so much more weight to it. It's pretty awesome. Pretty awesome.
Pretty awesome.
So after 39 episodes and being forced to go to a movie theater this week, are you still feeling forced to listen, do you think, after this time? And after these roundtables with great guests? Gonna feel real bad to say forced now, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm like afraid to say anything. No, not at all. Good thing I'm getting paid for this. Oh, wait.
You're getting paid in love, Tom.
In love.
Paid in
Well,
love.
that's priceless, Bryan.
Oh, that's why he sticks around. And I'm sure that's why all of you listeners stick around too for our cornball romance that we don't see between Omara and Din.
No.
Fast forward to a future conversation this very episode.
But it sounds like we're the only ones who didn't see
It sure
that.
does. Though I might be on the ship train now. I could be there.
I can see it as well, actually.
So thank you to our new friends. So this is number 3 of this roundtable. We are nearing the end. Next week is going to be our last episode. I am just so incredibly grateful to these people.
They've all been fantastic.
I mean, not only do I think they have helped me make this podcast better from just an editing standpoint alone, from their thought that they put into it, from the time that I can tell they're thinking about the little show notes that I send them. Like, it's just made our podcast so much better, and I'm very grateful. And last week we had an episode talking about labels and the ever-evolving changing dynamics of gender and how we see ourselves in ourselves and all those things. And here in this very episode, I, get a little bit of a refresher on some things that maybe I misunderstood before, maybe I didn't articulate it the right way. And it's really wonderful to have these groups of people who share these groups of people, these individuals on our podcast that have been so open and honest. And it's really awesome. I love the feedback we've gotten from listeners, and in a time in society when it's hard to hear what growth we personally need to do, it's awesome that people are there to share their thoughts, and we should always remember to be open.
And, for me, I personally want to say, just like with every guest we've ever had, it definitely makes me stop and hear it differently, and I don't want to ruin my shtick of being forced to listen, but it really does expand my mind. And yeah, after hearing what our upcoming guests are going to say, you too may see the relationship between Den. Okay. Den.
Din.
Den. You'd think I didn't watch it, right? But
It's also called a pram, Tom. It's not a prim. It's not a prim.
How about the Mandalorian and the girl in the water? You all know who I'm talking about.
Omera and her beautiful
Go back to my
daughter,
earlier
Winter.
episodes, what I used to call her, which I can't call her now. Don't tell anybody.
Yeah, no, let's not go back to those earlier episodes. We have grown since then, I hope. Honestly, I'm just so grateful to these people. So we have another really great conversation. It's a longer conversation again, but we got great feedback, so we're going to keep them up for one more time at least, right?
Absolutely.
And I think going forward, we can start saying that Tom is not forced to listen to our guests, but he's forced to listen to his husband. And with that, get ready. It's time to drink up.
Drink up.
We're thankful that y'all are here. We're going to start with introducing ourselves with our favorite character. So, Mark P., let's start with you.
Hi, this is Mark from San Jose, California. And even though I love Yoda, I have to say that right now my favorite character is Ahsoka. It has been for a while. I love her strength. I love the journey we've seen her on. Just everything and what's ahead is exciting. It's just like we're not done yet. So yeah, I want to see where it all goes.
We're going to talk about a possible live action Ahsoka today, I'm sure. And I think you had a couple sips of pink milk, and that's what happens. You drink the pink, and Ahsoka comes floating to the top. Mark M., let's go with you because it may be the same answer.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of Ahsoka love on this question. I have a feeling it's Ahsoka. Yoda used to be my favorite character, but with more of Ahsoka's arc being revealed through different, like jumping back to see the finishing of the Clone Wars series, I just realized that like the fact that I don't know her entire story and I'm kind of sitting on pins and needles waiting to see what's in store for an older Ahsoka just means that I'm so invested in this character. And I think I've said it on my podcast, I've said it here on Pink Milk. One of the reasons why I connect with Ahsoka is because of her story where she leaves the Jedi Order. And growing up in a very religious background, very religious home, I sort of related to the idea of looking around at the people that you have been learning from your whole life as a child, and then realizing that your values and their values don't necessarily sync up anymore. And her decision to go out on her own and explore what life had to offer for her, that decision was extremely inspirational to me. And it was the very first time watching that episode, the very first time I ever cried watching a Star Wars. So yeah, she's amazing.
I remember you saying that when you were here in June. That's pretty. I was never much of a crier until I became a father. Now the wind blows the wrong way, and I'm like a puddle. But Star Wars has always made me cry all the time, anyways. But that. I can't even watch it.
That's come with age with me. It just seems like I just get emotional at like all this stuff.
Same.
Like, what the hell is going on?
Hope, how about for you?
Hi, I'm Hope. And my favorite character is also Ahsoka. There's a reason I have a fulcrum tattoo.
Awesome.
Because I want to keep her close to my heart. Honestly, she was the first time I ever saw myself in Star Wars. The most blasphemous thing you'll ever hear on this podcast is the original trilogy is actually one of my least favorite parts of Star Wars.
Hey, everyone, that was Hope. We appreciated her on the last few episodes.
So much of it was like, I never connected with like Luke or Han. I liked Chewie, but like Leia was just so perfect as a woman that she actually made me feel bad about myself because I was so insecure. And I felt that way also about Padme as well. Like they were just these two amazingly awesome, perfect women that I never felt like I could live up to. And then Ahsoka shows up and she's horribly flawed. She's making mistakes. She gets her men killed. She doesn't know what she's going to do. She's indecisive. And that was the first time I saw myself in Star Wars. And the reason that like I fell in love with Star Wars is because of animation, and Ahsoka was my gateway drug to this fandom. So, but yeah, I love her. I love her so much. She helped me through some of the toughest times in my life. So
that's really wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. Ian.
Hi, I'm Ian, and my favorite character is probably Sabine, but it's really hard for me to answer because I said last week Also, one of my favorite characters is Admiral Holdo, because she was our first on-screen queer representation. Growing up, I identified a lot with Anakin. Like, I felt like I grew up with Anakin. And then it moved to Obi-Wan as a teenager. And then now it's just, like Leia, Sabine. I don't know. I love Hera.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Hera.
Mhm.
Hera's pretty
yeah.
great.
Has anybody actually played Squadrons yet with Hera in it?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah.
I'm soon. I was supposed to
Yeah.
yesterday, but I was too busy.
Oh no, it seems like all
Curious.
of Twitter is playing that game.
I know.
Emma, how about for you? Are you keeping us in animation land?
Well, actually, I've been thinking about it, and I think I'm going to say that my favorite character is Rey.
Very nice.
Because I identify with her a lot. Like, her values are very much the same as my values. The things that I like about her the most are her curiosity about life, her willingness to be like a disaster and just like a little sand gremlin.
Nice.
And also her determination to do hard things. It's almost like she's never met a challenge that she doesn't want to smash through.
And her kindness.
Yeah, and her kindness and compassion and warmth. Like, I think a lot of the time in fiction, we don't see characters that are that blend of resilience and strength and curiosity, but also warmth. So I think that's a really important portrayal, and so that's why Rey is my favorite.
That's awesome. Thomas, how about for you?
My name is Tom. I'm the co-host of Pink Milk, and my favorite character, I think, in the original trilogy was, of course, Luke Skywalker, because I believe, just like in life, sometimes, you're told to like something. So I liked Luke Skywalker. Later on in life, when I started to really just have my own thoughts, if you will, and I really feel that Kylo Ren has always just been my favorite character. I feel that he is really everybody sometimes. He has a dark side and a light side. And in the end, his light side came out. And I think he always had the light side. And yes, of course, there was lots of killing that he's responsible for. But as one of us just pointed out here, even Ahsoka had been responsible for people's deaths, maybe directly or indirectly, if you will. So I've kind of, as sad as it is, identified most with Kylo Ren.
Oh, that's awesome.
Don't be scared, everybody.
There's a dyad on this podcast today.
Yeah.
There we go.
I think it's so funny, Tom. I don't know if the sequel trilogies, I love it. I really like it. I haven't had the same amount of time with it, so it's hard for me to look at those things, but I like what you just said about how he always had the light and the dark in him. So Thursday, Tom and I took our boys to go see The Empire Strikes Back in the movie theater, which was crazy ridiculous because I never in a million years thought I would ever see it in the theaters again, and let alone with kids. And it was really wonderful and awesome.
Yeah.
So Empire Strikes Back is like super on top of mind right now. And I think about Han Solo in Empire and where he ends up in Return of the Jedi. And it makes me think of Solo, which is, I've said it many a time, is my favorite of the new movies. And I really love that portrayal of Han Solo. And I know that is a hot take that is debated and a lot, but I think that's who Han Solo is. Like in most of Return of the Jedi, again, another hot take because people don't always like Han Solo in Return of the Jedi. But I love that they took the choice to play that version of Han Solo to really finish his arc. We see him as a lighter character and he ends as a lighter character. And the way you just said it, Tom, made me think of Kylo in a way that I hadn't thought of him, because if Han Solo was Force sensitive during all the tumultuous stuff we saw him in, mostly in A New Hope and parts of Empire,
he very well could have been taken over by the dark side, much like Ben was. So it's actually very characteristic of Han Solo, and I don't think I've ever like drawn those lines before, so that's really cool. But I'm curious about the two marks of Yoda being your favorite characters before, because I too obviously am an OT kid, and you can't not love Yoda. But for me, the prequels are what made Yoda so amazing, and mostly Attack of the Clones. I just loved Yoda in Attack of the Clones, and his first line is, seeing you alive brings warm feelings to my heart, and it was just this really wonderful thing. We had him with the kids, so I'm wondering if, or was he always? Was it the original trilogy that made him your favorite, or did the prequels help double down on those things for the two of you?
For me, the prequels definitely doubled down on it, but I think it was the prequels that gave me a really deeper appreciation for Yoda because of his flaws. And I'm really, really grateful to the prequels that they went there and they showed that Yoda's perspective on the Force and the Jedi especially, and their role in the galaxy was inherently flawed, and that he learned from it, and that his exile, when we meet him for the first time originally, he's in exile, but we actually get to see what brings him there and what mistakes and regrets he has. That just fleshed him out in a way that I think if it had just been the original trilogy, he would have been a very sweet, grandfatherly type character. And that's why I loved him originally. But the prequels definitely gave me a much more rounded view of who Yoda is.
Very nice, Mark.
For me, it was, I just loved obviously how zen he was in the original trilogy, what he had to teach as a person who's short, being told that, you don't have to be this tall, big person to have an impact. That was really important for me. But then to get to see him actually, his fighting ability and him just do a lot more in the prequel trilogy is what really brought it around. And the other thing was that since I was a kid, I knew that Anakin and Obi-Wan were going to fight. That's what I was waiting to see. I had no idea where we're going to get Sidious versus Yoda. And when that happened, I was like, this is everything I've ever wanted to see. I had no idea I was going to get this. And yeah, I love that little guy. So
that scene is not talked about enough. There is so much. That scene is like
exactly
amazing. Like I love everything going on there. Exactly. How like here we have Darth Sidious, who's like not the Chancellor anymore, but using the government, literally their seats, to throw down at like the Jedi and like, look, I not only physically did use the government to take you down, now I will like, metaphorically / physically also use the government to take you down. Like, oh my God, so good.
Yeah. The scene where the Senate, the pod opens up into the Senate chamber room, and it just, you get the big wide shot of it. I gasped out loud. I was like, this is what I love about Star Wars right here. The music.
100%. That's what the entire prequels was about, was that moment. And here we are, like, oh my God, it's so good. So it is. We need to do a podcast about that actually, because I don't hear enough conversation about that one specific lightsaber duel at all. It's so good. So good.
Easily one of the top Yoda moments.
Indeed.
Ever.
The animation in that was really good. Like his face as he's like holding on, like it's all just perfect. It's just perfect. Everything about that's perfect.
And Palpatine's just hamming up the entire thing. Like, we talk about that so much in our podcast. Like, I don't mean this in a queer way, but that was like Palpatine's coming out party, and he's just like, I've been working my entire life. Here I am, and he's just partying. Like, that is him just enjoying his best life because he won.
Yep. Dude, that's really smart. That's really smart. All right.
But not in a gay way.
Well,
different kind of coming out party.
He's fabulous.
He is fabulous, but not as much as Dooku in his silk pajamas.
Yeah. Palpatine's death
Agreed.
drop.
All right. Well, we are not here talking about the movies. We are here to talk about chapters 4, 5, and 6 of The Mandalorian. And I think I know 2 of you are super into chapter 6. I know I have one other one that's with me that we're like, maybe. So I'm really excited to see where we go with that. We all know that there has been some Gina Carano problems as of late. So we will really tackle into that probably more when we discuss chapter 6. I would love to hear everyone's takes on that. So even though we meet Cara Dune in chapter 4, I do think we will talk about Gina Carano more towards the end with Xi'an, because I think there's some interesting things going on there creatively versus what's going on in reality, and I'm really curious to get everyone's takes on that conversation. But chapter 4 is we meet Cara Dune, who ends up becoming an incredibly important character. We meet Omera, who I know someone in this chat right now is a big shipper of them. Cracks me up because he could care less about anything that she's got to say from my perspective. But my biggest
So that was Bryan. He's not in charge of this podcast anymore.
Nice.
I think for me, my biggest takeaway from this episode, both times, and it comes down to us and our queer experience and the questions that we get asked that I don't think anyone else in society generally has to get asked. But 2 people in this very episode are like, "What's with the helmet?" And it is such a clear cross of boundaries. Like, they all know it's a question they shouldn't ask, but they don't have enough respect for him or his culture or his queerness in this situation to not ask that question because they are somehow better than him, which I think a lot of us, unfortunately, in society have to hear questions that shouldn't be asked of us because in any other situation they wouldn't. But for us, because we're somehow less than, I do think we get questions that shouldn't be asked. So, question. We're going to start with Emma. What did you think of this episode? And what are your thoughts on Mando and Omera? Is that how you pronounce your name? Omera, probably?
Yep.
Okay.
Mandomera. Name, Mandomera.
I loved the episode. I enjoyed it a lot. I remember when I first saw it, I just loved the tone, especially having a toddler. Like when the child and Mando are in the cockpit, like that is exactly what having a toddler is like. It really is. And like he looks directly at him while he's pressing the button. Like
That was me as a kid.
No, that's my niece Riley. Like you tell Riley to stop something, she'll look at you and go, "No, it's mine now." Like that's my niece.
And I really found it was a very comforting episode in the sense that it uses a lot of tropes. It's not boring, but it does use a lot of tropes. So it's kind of got this really comforting predictability that sort of wraps you in a warm blanket. Like as soon as you see the shot of the ramp going down, like I knew that he was going to be standing there. I knew it.
Yep. There's something very much
like, oh, stay right here. And then you get a shot. Yeah. Like, but it was still funny when I saw it. I still enjoyed it.
I agree. I like that you said that it's very comforting because I think this episode feels like home in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And we're teasing him with, do we want a life like this that you can be quiet and peaceful? And so in the most Star Wars way, which is something that I think Star Wars does so well, is makes you feel where those characters are. It doesn't just show you, they structure a story around a very emotional capture and so you can bring yourself into those characters. I think that was really well said, actually.
Yeah, exactly. And also like other sort of tropey moments, the red eyes on the walker like rising up out of the floor, like that is such like a monster movie shot. Like that is, like there were so many, as soon as you see the tank, you just know someone's head's gonna get dunked in it. Like it's just It was just great. It was like this little lexicon of adventure movie tropes, you know.
100%, 100%. Mark P, how about for you?
And as for Mando and Amara, oh sorry,
No,
okay.
no, I forgot there was part 2 of the question. Great host.
Yeah, so for the relationship between Mando and Omera, like I mean, you know, it's not gonna go anywhere, but I wanted it to, for sure. For sure. Like I felt like there was something there. And I love that she was a great shot. Like
Mhm.
she wasn't just this demure widow, like there was more to her. So in a way, she's kind of like Mando in that way. She's this person who is out of like it's obvious she hasn't always belonged to this place. She hasn't always belonged to this peaceful farm because you don't get aim like that just growing up on a farm.
Yeah, I highly doubt that we are done with her. I think
And
there is more to come for sure.
she knows the culture of the Mandalorian. She didn't ask, "Why are you wearing that mask?" She asked, "How long has it been since you've taken that off?"
Right.
Like my theory is that she used to be one. But that's just my theory.
That's interesting.
That occurred to me.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, I'm telling you, I've never liked this woman since she came on, and I felt she crossed the line, and I have
I used to make fun of her.
yes, I will admit it. I have made these judgments about her, and I have not allowed myself to move past them.
But she's a
Like
really
I
good
said-
mother. She's a really good mother and willing to take on his child as well, which
Yeah,
adoption is
yeah.
very prominent in Mandalorian culture in the first place.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, like I said, I'm really excited to have this conversation because I love chapter 5, which we will get to, which is like it's my favorite of the entire season. So I have a different take than a lot of people. Mark P, before we get
Alright.
back to Hope.
So I'll admit that when I first saw this episode, I didn't like it all that much. There were elements of it that I did like, but it took me a little while to warm up to. After the rewatch this time, I was like, okay, I like this, and I love the work that Bryce Dallas Howard did because I mean, I think was this her first directing outing? I
Yeah.
mean, come on, she did a great job. And you know, like you were saying that you got a sense of home. It reminded me a lot of a Star Trek TNG episode as it starts, and it gave me that made me a little confused at first. I think even though I love TNG, I just like, oh, this is kind of weird to see this in Star Wars. I'm all, but okay, you know, let's see what happens, right? And like you said, there was a lot of tropes. Like Em said, there's a lot of tropes that are in there, stuff that you know we see a lot, but it works, you know. And in the end, now I appreciate it a lot more. And as for Mando and Omera, I do like their relationship. I think she gave him an idea of what it would be like if he did settle down, if he put down some roots. Because if he ends up being, you know, father to Baby Yoda without having to find his, you know, his people or who he's going to go with, this is what life could be like for him, you know. And as for like when she kept trying to reveal him by way of his helmet, I never thought that she'd crossed any boundaries in that she was trying to do it tenderly because she cared. It was never out of disrespect. She really tried to connect with him and let him reveal himself because she was saying, it's okay for you to reveal yourself to me. And I do love about them too. So if they did end up together, it would make me happy. I don't want anything to happen to her because I actually like her more now than I did before. So there's that.
Ian, how about you?
So, personally, I feel like the way Mando acts with Omera is how how I act whenever I meet a potential partner or someone who like would be compatible with myself. You know, I open up just enough to be real and vulnerable with them, but still withdrawn and held at arm's length so as not to get too attached. You know, I definitely tend to sometimes push away what could be good for me, and I think, you know, with myself, but then also with Mando, there's like a fear of commitment and it's really not until I feel like we kind of experienced that with Mando even leading up to this episode, where all of a sudden he grows attached, and then it's really not until he decides to rescue Baby Yoda that he's finally ready to commit to something, or in that aspect. And then and then looking at this through like a LGBTQIA plus, I feel like this episode is the equivalent to eventually like reaching a place in our life where we've just come out and are starting to get comfortable with that freedom, but still learning what it's like to be comfortable with ourselves while we're with others. I didn't even think it didn't even register me the idea that this person asking why do you wear that helmet or whatever, do you ever take it off, like it didn't register that could be potentially invasive of the Mando's identity. And but in terms of the episode in general, I love this episode. It's our classic Star Wars meets Seven Samurai episode. We got it in the Clone Wars, and I think we even got some of it in Star Wars Rebels. It felt, when I first watched this episode, I got like strong. It seemed like a live action Clone Wars Rebels episode, and Baby Yoda with the lost cat. Like, I know the lost cat was like kind of like get out of my face, but if we can get some more lost cat and Baby Yoda action, I'm all about it. And in terms of tropes and stuff, we can't forget this is, and I was reading about this the other day, like this is our Endor episode. There's a lot of hidden callbacks to Endor, and even a little bit with Kashyyyk in terms of the way like the village huts are constructed. But yeah, I feel like I totally just rambled, but I'm done.
It's so funny. I love that you the huts that you had just referenced. I don't think it wasn't until this last rewatch that I was like, I put my I have a background in anthropology, so I look at things like that.
That's cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, the huts look like the baskets they use to farm the krill, and it's such an explanation of who they are as a people and their culture and their way of life and all that in the little house. And I was like, oh, that's so rad. Didn't notice it the first time, but I did notice it this time. And it is funny because I love the Loth Cat. I think everybody who is an animation nerd was very excited to see one the first time. However, on this rewatch, no, that is Thomas pointing to Bulbasaur from Pokemon Pop to there. That is not a Loth Cat. But my excitement for the Loth Cat was now given to Hope because I know how much she loves Loth Cats. And so when I saw this, I was like, oh, that's where my mind went. So Mark P, we're going to go, or Mark M, we're going to go with you because I know Hope loves this episode, so we're gonna let her finish this question out.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this episode too. I think initially when I saw that it was another Seven Samurai, another The Bounty Hunters take, at first it was like a little like, okay, we've gone to this well a lot of times now. But just the way it was executed ended up winning me over. And the production values of the episode are just amazing. It looks beautiful. It looks expensive. But I had to laugh when Mark P said about the Star Trek Generation thing connection. First of all, for those who don't know, Mark P and I are like spiritual twins. We are frequently on the same wavelength. We have very similar events in our lives that's very eerily match up. So it doesn't surprise me that he and I were both thinking TNG. It reminded me actually of the movie Star Trek Insurrection.
Yep, that's it.
the Baku village, and especially the music and the bucolic scenes of this agrarian society, and people are living in harmony with nature, and this was very Star Trek. So that was fun to sort of see that brought into a Star Wars sphere. But there's a lot about the episode that I like. I like the fact that aside from the raiding party being the main threat, they have an ATST, and being a nerd of a fan of Empire Strikes Back with the Imperial Walkers, I love seeing the ATST. It reminded me of, like you said, about the Ewok the Ewok scenes in Return of the Jedi. I see the red eyes as being like, I don't think anyone was driving it. I sort of read it as being it was remote controlled, or it had an artificial intelligence. That's just how I saw it. To the subject of Omera, I am Team Omera very much. I really loved the actress, and I'm sorry I can't think of the name of the actress at the moment.
Julie Jones, I think. She was in Twilight.
Okay, great. I think she plays it with such subtlety and nuance. The scene where she asks about the helmet, the actress does such a great job of she's observing very closely. She's extremely observant. She's extremely empathetic, and she has gauged, I believe, that it would be acceptable for her to ask the question. And the way it's okay with him is the way he responds and how his voice softens. He is very receptive also to her questions. And there's an intimacy there immediately that is established that, yes, I mean, I don't ship very often, but it's undeniable that they have a chemistry right off the bat. And I did consider that she was perhaps an ex-Mando. And I think it's interesting that she's asking about the helmet, because if she used to be a Mandalorian, she was a Mandalorian at a time when Mandalorians did take their helmets off. So if you think about where this takes place in the timeline, the reason she asks the question, and she seems to be a little perplexed by the idea that he has never removed it in front of anyone, is that perhaps something happened in the culture to where they're to a point now where they never removed the helmet. And that's new to her, because when she grew up in the culture, they removed their helmets. We've already seen it in Rebels. Yeah, I think that's about all I could say about the episode so far.
And I mean, on that point though, like, I think that's where I find so much confusion in this, because if he put on the helmet as a boy during the Clone Wars and then he's never removed it since, that doesn't mesh up to what we see with like Sabine,
right?
Who is constantly removing this helmet. So I'm wondering if there's like just almost like religion, how there's different sects. I'm wondering if this is like a particular sect of Mandos who just don't remove their helmets, because he would be wearing his helmet during the same time period that Sabine's taking off hers, and that doesn't mesh up.
Born again Mandalorians.
Yeah.
Orthodox Mandalorians.
Yeah, we're gonna put a bit of a pin in that conversation, because I do want to circle back to it. There's something I'm curious what y'all think about that. When we do this is the first episode he takes the helmet off, and for the first time he's looking at that life that could be his without the visor, and it made me think the opposite of Darth Vader in Revenge of the Sith, when we are saying goodbye to Anakin and we see that the rest of his life he's going to see everything through a red filter, and how absolutely heartbreaking that is, that's how he's going to spend the rest of his life. And we meet Mando, at least the way I look at it, we meet Mando knowing that he only sees the world through this lens, and now he gets to look at a life that he could have had without it. And I find that interesting. But Hope, let's hear about, because Tom and I are clearly in the minority here. Tom and I must have a very romantic relationship, because we are not seeing anything between these two.
I mean, it's really interesting also, just to add that she says, you can put your armor away and put it back on if there's ever trouble. So she's aware that that's something that he can take off and put on. But to talk about this episode, and actually these 3 episodes as a whole, story-wise, looking at the season, episodes 4, 5, and 6 to me are the most important episodes of the season, because episode 1 and episode 2 are the exposition. Episode 3 is the inciting incident of him taking the child, and then we have the finale and the conclusion of episodes 7 and 8. 4, 5, and 6 are the Mando defining character arcs episodes of the season. We see him in a chance of who he could be, a life of like how he helps people. Episode 5, he takes somebody under his wing and he becomes very protective. Episode 6, we see his morals of who he used to be versus who he is now. Like, these 3 episodes are Mando's character defining episodes of the season that really shade in who he is as a person. So like, that's why I'm just so excited to talk about these 3, because I love these 3 because they are defining for him. Okay, so hi, I'm Hope. I ship Mandomera so much. They're so precious. They're going to have so many cute babies and they're going to be great. And then she was all like, can I have your son? And he's all like, yeah, you can have my son because he's going to be safe with you and he trusts her. And he's like, you know what? I've been here for a few weeks. And she's like, yes, you have. And he's like, you want a kiss? And she's like, well, let me just lick that visor of yours. Just like, they're just so good. I love them so much. And they're just amazing. And she's such a good mom. I think looking at her as a character, just like she's crafty and she loves her child. Like, I love that opening scene where she's hiding under the basket with her baby, and she's like so smart. And okay, I'm calm down a second. I'm going into fangirl mode. Gotta calm down for half a second. Let me get out of fangirl mode and go into like logical mode. But I never actually saw that. I always wondered if she was an ex-Mando, because it's all about how she phrases the questions. It's not, why do you, a child or somebody who's not familiar with Mandalorians would be like, oh, why are you wearing that? But she doesn't ask those questions. She asks, how long have you been doing that? And that's a very important way of framing things. Words matter in this world, and how things are presented, because they only have like 30 minutes an episode to put down this foundation. She's a good shot. She's the only one that's not saying like, I've been here for generations. Everybody else has been there for generations. So I don't think she is from there. I think my theory is she's an ex-Mando, or some kind of soldier, because she clearly has training. But it goes into that widow trope too, of the widow who's lost their husband and has to go and become like the protector of the world, not the world, the farm, the world of their farm. So I love these episodes. And from kind of a queer lens, I always saw her taking off the helmet as someone who's already kind of out already, and they're just kind of like, come here, my child, like you'll be fine. You don't have to wear this armor. And we do have situations where we kind of have to like take on and put off our queerness, and we have to ourselves mask who we are in certain areas and places and times. But when we're around people like the beautiful panel that's with us today, like you can like take off that armor, and be more open about it. So I just rambled a lot. So they're gonna have such beautiful babies together, and their names are gonna be so cute, and they're gonna be lovely. And then they're just gonna like, Winta's gonna be like, "Where's my little brother?" And like, and then Baby Yoda's gonna grow up and like take care of like their grandkids and their great grandkids, and like be like their like older like grand cousin. I don't know. It's gonna be great. I love it so much.
You know, maybe like the clues in this episode are meant to show us that Din's choice to wear his helmet all the time is like, it's an extraordinary choice.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
You know, because like, as Hope was speaking, I remembered also the way that she talks to him about eating too. She's like, she says, I noticed that you didn't eat outside. I'll leave the food here. It's almost like she's realized that, sort of like when she first went to try to feed him on the veranda, he could have taken off his helmet. It was an option. Whereas, like, there are some characters in this universe who, as soon as they see a Mandalorian, they automatically assume they're never going to take their helmet off. Right?
Wow.
And so, but there are other characters that know that some do, some don't.
So I think this episode feels very prequel-like. I think the like color of this episode is very prequel-like. It's very Camino. It's very Jango Fett. It just looks very much like that world to me. When we first meet Cara Dune, we don't trust her. You know, they have their little tiff. We get the funniest moment in any Star Wars, I think, ever with the bone broth sip cup thing. It's like, it is perfect. It never not is funny. But then we come back and they're hanging out. And it's a very quick line of exposition about, you know, and we've heard it before, I think, from Grief in one of the episodes of the really all that's left of the Empire are mercenaries and warlords. And we have entered this time in the Star Wars universe where people have gone to the total extreme. It is often, it's funny how Star Wars is always very timely because we are now living in this country anyways of very polar extremes. Like you are way far right or you're way far left, and there is very little room for in between. So we have the only Empire people that are left are the diehards. I mean, we met the stormtroopers who I think was Toby in our first roundtable talked about how thin they were. Like they will sacrifice everything to support this cause that they believe in. And now we have this Mandalorian who has taken the idea of the helmet and the armor and taken it to the extreme of I am nothing without this. And so we have this character who maybe Omera was a Mandalorian, and it's funny to me that it's a prequel era looking thing where we do know the Mandalorians remove their helmets all the time. They are a prideful people, but it's different. It's more them, less the armor. The armor is the exterior part of who they are on the inside. And we clearly, in our little group, there is that argument being had between the armor and the Jon Favreau. But I find it interesting that we have these two polar opposites that have gone to the extreme of what their beliefs are, and now they're at war together. And here we are in this alternative reality where you can't just stop and be quiet, and you don't have to live in that war. And I feel like it's been mentioned a few times about coming out, and I'm curious how you all think about the time and place when we choose to, in this sense, remove our helmet and show who we really are. Mandalorian wants to do it. Din's almost there, but he's not quite ready yet, and he chooses to not remove it. But he does want it. When we do see him, like I said, he removes it, and he wants to look at that life without the filter on it. And I find this a very, very curious thing. If Omara is out and Din is not, when do we remove these helmets? And at what point is Mandalorian going to feel that he can come out of the closet, if we will, and remove his stuff? Do you think that's something? Is there something there, or am I now fanboying out myself and getting lost in what ifs?
Yeah, I think there's something there because it's also different for everybody. Like you have someone like Sabine and her family are constantly taking off their helmets and stuff like that, and they're always out. But when it comes to us, like, it's I think it's so much it's a feeling of safety. Like I've come out to like my immediate family, and like my friends and stuff like that. But then there are other people that I haven't come out to, like. I'm honestly waiting for my grandfather to die to come out to the rest of my family because he will not accept me. And I want to be in a life where my grandfather loves me. And so, and that's just a matter of safety, of feeling safe to do that and to be with those family members. And I think when it comes to Amanda, like he has that safe feeling there, but he's not there yet. And I don't think it's the safety for him in that situation. It's the safety for the village and the people around him, because the longer he stays there, he's going to put them in danger.
100%. Mark P., do you have anything to add?
To add what you both were saying, the reasons why we hold back and not open up can be family, it can be religion, upbringing, just so you could be in an unsafe environment where it's going to cause trouble. You could get kicked out of your house, and then sometimes, even when there is an open environment and people around you obviously have made it known that it's a safe space, some people don't choose to come out. I have a friend who didn't come out until about 20 years after he had been around a group of us where it had been an environment where we accepted everybody. People's journey when they choose to do that, sometimes it's just they're not ready. This is not what they want to do just yet. And when the time comes, they do that and they share it with the people that always made it known that, you can come to me with this. You can share that part of yourself with me. Whereas on the other end of that were like me, where I basically fell out of the closet, because it was all an accident. But I took the opportunity. I was like, well, cat's out of the bag. Let's just do this. And so I did. But that's a story for another day.
Ian, you have any thoughts?
I feel like, with the Mandalorian, he takes his helmet off, puts it to the side so he can eat, and he's like watching the children. To me, it's like he's in a way, he's in a closet and the door is open and he can see out of the closet. He can see the world outside of it, but it's still, he's still, number one, he's still in there, and number two, the view that he sees is still very limited. And I think it's, I don't know, to me, that's what that moment symbolizes. And I think it was Mark who was saying that, it's almost like, regardless of the safe spaces people can provide, it's still a matter of the individual's own safety, whether or not they feel safe and whether or not they're comfortable, like really, really comfortable with opening up about themselves in a way that, could even though it might be a positive experience for them, there's still some emotional trauma there.
Yeah, 100%. Emma, do you have any thoughts?
About being in the closet? I would know. I've never done it.
Your helmet's always been off.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I don't know either. I don't know a world really. Like my entire adult life, I moved out of the house and moved to another state just to be gay. So I don't really know a world, truthfully.
No, I as people have been speaking, I've actually been thinking about the Mandalorian wearing his helmet, choosing to wear it all the time, and about, I don't know, just like walking through life knowing that no one's ever going to just like kiss you on the cheek.
Yeah.
Like, what's that like?
You haven't been reading the right fan fiction, honey. There's blindfolds involved. Girl, I can hook you up with that.
Awesome.
No, but I just mean like, not being able to be caught unawares by those very sort of casual social gestures. Like, they're always going to be filtered. And it's like, it's a meaningful choice to choose to have that be part of the structure of your life.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know if I have thought of it that way, but in listening to you speak about it, my mind hops to Rogue from X-Men who
Nice.
can't get the touch, but she didn't really choose that. And now if Din's choosing it, and because I am a massive X-Men fan, I know the torture that it causes Rogue, and I'm like, oh my God, what's going on in poor Din's head? If anything, this episode, I just felt like I'm so clearly different than all of you, because I felt like nothing. And talk about, adding the A into LGBTQIA, like that's where my mind is going. Maybe this is just he doesn't need that kind of attention in his life, and that's totally cool. And how great will it be if we can get this leading man who has no interest in a leading person, and their person is their child, and it is the society around him. That is who his person is. Like, it's a really beautiful thing to me. And like, I want to be on your train so bad. Like, I want to be there. And like, I don't dislike her like I did, but
well, just because you're asexual doesn't mean that you don't want romance. It's that's not what that means, and I think that's a very common misconception because I'm asexual, but like I still want a partner one day, and I still want to get married and have somebody with me. So
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
necessarily mean like that kind of thing, but like not this sexual tension between people. It just doesn't need to necessarily be there. Maybe it's there. I'm not.
Oh,
You can speak
It's
to that
there.
more than
yeah,
I
that
can.
sex doesn't
It's-
equal intimacy.
Yeah.
You can just have that connection
Yes.
by way of your soul, so to speak. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
what they bring into your life and vice versa. Okay.
Yeah, and because the
Interesting.
intimacy was there, like that's the most tender. The only other person that we've seen him be that tender to is Baby Yoda.
Mhm.
And yeah, intimacy was the word that was escaping me. Thank you, Mark. But there's just so many great themes in this episode. Like I keep coming back to like how much water there is, and I just to share with the listeners, I shared with everybody else this way of watching season 1 where you actually switch chapter 5 and chapter 4 to make the plot flow better. Because Peli of chapter 5 is like, this isn't a way to raise a child, you need to lay low. So then if you watch chapter 4 after chapter 5, it's him trying to lay low. But I actually like thematically, I love chapter 4 being in this place because there's so much water, and he's like, and he goes into the water. So there's these like baptism like overtones as well of him trying to, because he wanted to leave Baby Yoda and he wanted to go back to his old life without his child. And then he goes into the water and he realizes that he has to like bring this child with me. So he has to go from this old life into this new life, which is now taking his son with him. And how does he adjust? Like there's so many amazing themes in this episode, and there's so much. There's color theory that you can go into. There's a podcast called Sky Talkers, and when they covered this episode, they went to like deep diving color theory of like the blues and the greens and what they mean thematically to the Mandalorian. So like
Oh,
there's
that's
so
cool.
much here. So this is my favorite episode. I love it. I could talk.
Yeah,
forever about this.
when I was watching and I realized how everyone had used the same dye on their clothing, I kind of
Mhm.
had this like headcanon that it's from the shells of the krill, the blue krill.
Ooh,
Yeah.
nice.
Yep.
Yeah, me too, actually.
Yeah, there's got to be something there. Mark, do you have anything to add?
Well, I've been sitting here listening to everybody's wonderfully eloquent points about the helmet and sort of representing the coming out process and who you choose to come out to. And I didn't necessarily see it through that lens until everyone started talking about it. But I've had a different reaction sitting here listening. I don't think of it so much as the helmet represents being in the closet, because we've already established from a previous episode that his grafting of the Beskar armor was really sort of his coming out moment. And so
Mm.
I kind of see it more as kind of an inverse of coming out, more or less. The armor, the helmet represents the persona or the shield or the sense of self that he puts out there, that he's proud of and wants to project. And seeing it through a queer lens, I think of it in terms of like the way we project who we are and how proud we are to be out, and how proud we are of our sexual orientation and who we are and how we fit within the community. And all of that is great. But the removing of the helmet, it represents the vulnerability of saying, sometimes I don't feel great about it. And that's something we don't talk about very often. Sometimes I do feel like being the outlier is painful. And in spite of the sense of community and pride that we can feel when we come together, we still have those little personal moments where we don't feel very strong. Or I'm speaking personally. I can't speak for everybody else, but I think that's admitting that vulnerability is something that a lot of queer people have an issue with, because somehow we think that if we admit that we don't love ourselves, or that we're not being, true to the cause, or so to speak. And I think just the fact that we have that vulnerable side to us makes us human, and it makes us more relatable, because it's something that every human being goes through. It's just that we happen to have those inner insecurities as a result of a very specific life experience. But those insecurities are still universal. So, his choice to keep the helmet on is just who he's choosing who he wants to be vulnerable with, which is why I ship Omera with him because he's this is the first time that he's considered being vulnerable with another person. I might point out he's never removed his helmet in front of Baby Yoda. So
Yeah, that's interesting.
Has-
I like that you're going there, because I still go with he is not wanting to settle down for himself with her. It's seeing Baby Yoda playing with the kids that is making him like, maybe I'm going to do this for him. Like the idea you were talking about, the pride of coming out and all those things, which I agree with 100%. But there's still things like Tom and I got married for our children. Yes, it was for us, but it wasn't for us at the same time. And even to this day, as weird as this sounds, and as much as I personally went and marched and did the things I needed to do to get married, it sounds weird to me in my own head when I call him my husband, or if I talk to someone and say my husband, and it's like my own insecurities, and it's so ridiculous.
Oh, the first time I referred to my husband as my husband, I heard it in my head. I was like, "Oh my God, you just said it!" It was so funny. It was in a casual conversation, and I said, "Oh yeah, that's what my husband does,"
Yeah.
And I was just like, I just said husband."
I
I was
mean,
so used to saying partner.
yeah.
Which for
Yeah.
me, it seemed so incredibly natural. Which
Yeah.
I probably had more of a hang up coming out and took longer in life to truly come out to my whole family. But once I was out, there was literally, nope, you're not gonna. There'll be no leeway. I will not. Here I am. This is my husband. That's it. There's no other nothing.
Yeah. Like,
There's no. It doesn't even cross my mind. Like comes to neighbors, things like that. I don't. This is my husband. That's it. I don't care what you think. Doesn't matter to me. You're my kids.
I mean, I still refer to Tom as my boyfriend because I just like that word. It's like, to me, that's just who he is still. And I don't know, but I understand the greater ramification of what that means. And I understand Tom's, and I work really hard to make sure I say husband, but I agree with everything you just said.
I get confused when he says boyfriend. I'm like, oh, who's your boyfriend?
Oh, what did you want to add?
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, I know for me, like, my insecurity for that I sometimes have trouble taking my Mando helmet off about. Sometimes I don't feel like I'm queer enough to be in the queer community.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That is,
Yes.
especially being bi. Like, I know if I ever got with a guy, bi erasure is a very real thing in culture. But it's like sometimes I'm like, am I dressing like butch enough to be with a lady? Like, do I look gay enough? Do I act gay enough? But like, it's some. I often feel that I don't feel queer enough to be in the queer community, and okay, here's a stupid story of me overcompensating. So last year at Dragon Con, I was on a panel. And I was on a panel with people that I highly admire, and I was so nervous, and like, because they're so eloquent, they're so on top of things, they're so smart, and I just was so intimidated to just be sitting on the panel with them. So my friend Kate, who is one of my dearest friends, and she has a lovely wife as well, I was like, Kate came to watch it, and after the panel, I was just like, Kate, how's your wife? Because we're gay. And she just kind of looked at me, she was like, are you okay? And I was like, no, I'm not okay. But I said it like so loud because I'm like, I am the queer thing on this panel because that makes me different from these very smart people that I'm very intimidated by. And I felt like this need to overcompensate because I feel like that's like the thing that defines me, but we can't think that way because if ourselves are a house, being queer is just one of our pillars. Like, we have so many other pillars that make up our personal houses of who we are. But sometimes it's just like, I want to just showcase this one pillar and like put lights on it and make everyone look at it because I sometimes feel like that's the only thing that makes me unique is being queer. which then goes into other securities and stuff like that. And then what if I'm not queer enough to have this in my house? And there's a lot. I just unpacked a lot. Hi guys, this is the therapy session.
No,
on this
thank
portion.
you for everyone sharing this, because I think it's true. Like,
Important.
I mean, I have been out most of my life. I don't really have a coming out story because I just moved to another state and I was just gay. And when I came back, it was, you know, I lost almost everyone here. But by then, I guess I was comfortable enough with myself that I was like, fine, if you're gonna leave me for that, then that's on you, boo, and you're good. But there is something in it, and you know, to speak to Mark P earlier, who said, you know, he relates to Yoda being short. I am not a very tall person either, and coming out when I did, you know, I was a club kid, like through and through. I think I've mentioned it on this before, like, and being gay, I started to develop a lot of issues that I never had because I was always attracted to like really big, like the big muscle people at all the things who were all tall, and it was like just big, and it was everything that I physically could not be. And it was very hard to find myself attractive when I'm attracted to other men, but I don't see myself in the men that I'm attracted to. Made it this really difficult thing. And then at that time I was like 19. I was 5'4" and I weighed like 95 pounds. I was like nothing. And so I was treated by other gay people as, at that time, and these big people that I was attracted to was this little waif of nothing. And back then that was not stereotypically the attractive thing you wanted to be. And I couldn't be treated like a man because I was too small and I was too skinny to be a man. But then I wasn't, I don't know, I wasn't something else enough to not be, you know, the other thing. And I never felt like I fit in. I was just like, how can I'm gay and I'm 5'4" and I weigh 95 pounds, but I'm still like a dude and I'm not anything else, but I'm not enough of any. And I felt very much like that. I was never enough of anything until, you know, I got older, and then you process what you need to process. And then I met my husband, who I thought was the hottest person in all of Phoenix, and he found me attractive. So somehow I became very confident with myself because of my husband, because I am not joking when I say he was the most attractive person I'd ever seen in my entire life. And I was like, oh my God, and he saw me. Oh my God. And he's still dating me. And, you know, it was really helpful. But I totally thank you for sharing that, because I don't think, you know, it has been a little bit of a therapy session. My goodness.
I've heard that from other people. Like, I was actually just talking to someone in my fandom a couple weeks ago on Twitter, you know, and they were struggling with identifying as bi. And I just told them, like, no one can define your identity but you. Like, you have the right to decide what your identity is and what label you want. And it's okay if your label changes over time too. You know? It's like,
you gotta evolve.
Yeah. It's like, but I think that's something that we need to teach people, because so much of the time we are socialized to feel like we're being observed and judged by other people, and that there's like one right way to be who you are. But the truth is, nobody's watching. Like, there's no panel of judges that's going to hold up like a 10 at the end, you know?
Unless you're in a ball.
Or
And you're
that
hoping for
Black
those
Mirror
10s across the
Nobody's
board.
watching you, and you get to decide. Yeah, trust me, if you're in a ball, you'll know.
And I have to add to what you're saying. So a lot of, for me, a lot of where that thinking has evolved has been with the women in my life, and the queer women in my life, and how they just simply are. If they are with men, they are with men. If they are with women, they are with women. And I don't even question that anymore. Obviously, with men, they have a harder time with that, because stupid machismo gets involved and they're supposed to act a certain way. But I just, to me, again, the women in my life have been the ones that have taught me the most about that. And you just be who you are, you know? And as far as I'm concerned, and I'm looking at all of you, you know, whatever you want to do, whatever you like, you know, it's like that you're all family. I was always taught to like be accepting of it. I didn't get it when I was a lot younger, because when I first came out, I was so hardcore about being gay that I got mad when I would see bi people. I'm like, no, you're not allowed to do that. It's like, you got to be gay or straight. And I'm like, wait a minute. Then I'm limiting people the same way that I have been limited before. So how does that work? And so it took time, and with younger, queer people that I would meet who would come out to me, I would tell them, it's like, look, this is who you are now. And on this journey you're going to be on, it's going to change. You're going to evolve. So, this is where you're at now. 10 years from now, you're going to look back and you're like, wow, I didn't see a lot of this coming. So, that's where that took me, brother. And by the way, Bryan, fellow gay hobbit, so I'm glad I'm not alone.
Represent. So I think it's interesting that Emma brought it up last week, and the comedian, I don't remember the name, also speaking of
Hannah
last week,
Gadsby.
Ian. I called it a prim yet again in our introduction. I got yelled at about being a pram, and I still couldn't remember that it was a pram. But you brought up last week, Emma, about the internal homophobia, and I think a lot of this probably stems to all of that. If you really boil all of this stuff down to its essence, that's what it is. I think, speaking, to what Mark said, I know being younger, it was so hard just to come out, and then to hear that, and I think we've mentioned it in an episode before, like, I had to fight so hard just to be comfortable being gay. Don't give me another option that there's this other thing. I finally got here, like, and it's with age and time and acceptance, truthfully, that we can become other things. And I think what's really interesting at the end of this episode, because I do, Mando was presented with something, and I found it very interesting that, and I'm not sure if I noticed it before we started doing these roundtables, but he's taken out of that village by a droid. And we first meet Mando, and he refuses to be carried by a droid. And now he's had all these experiences. He's seen the people step up for him. He's seen a person who sees him for who he is, and he's a little more willing to face his trauma, and he's wheeled out by a droid. And then this is going to be the greatest segue, and I love my segues. But and then so we get to chapter 5, fast forward, we crash land at home. We just saw one version of home, and to me, Star Wars home is Tatooine. I know, like, people don't like to go there, but that is home. I don't want Star Wars without Tatooine. I don't need to be there all the time, but it's home, and he needs a moment to ground himself and to channel who he is and who he wants to go forward. And so we go home, and he's presented with someone who, oh God, I'm completely blanking on his name. Hope, what's his name? I know you're always good at this stuff.
Toro?
Or Calican.
Yes. He is where Mando was before we know the story, but he was there at some point in time, and this kid now is going to define who he wants to be. And Mando's like, you know what, I can help you out, that I'm figuring out who I am still.
That's when I was actually raising my hand, because I was like, to segue into Toro, who is also like unsure of where he is in life. So we were on the same wavelength.
But so we meet him. We meet some pit droids. I love Ellen Ripley, and I love seeing her. I love that character. She's so awesome. Like, this is my favorite episode of the entire season, and I don't, it's a very Dave Filoni episode. I love Filoni, but like, it is just everything about it is Dave Filoni. But we enter into a bar, which we've discussed, and a bar being a bit of a sacred space for a lot of us, not all of us, as we have discussed here, but it is a space for us to be ourselves. And here he is in his space. We are introduced to droids who we know in Star Wars were not welcome there once before. As society's changed, gay people are allowed in a lot more places, openly so, and in a safer way than we used to be. And Mando is actually now going to go seek his trauma to find advice from his trauma. And then we were introduced at that exact same moment, someone who was once where he was. And I find that metaphor really, really interesting. So I'm curious about your takes on the kid. Oh my God, I forgot his name again. Toro.
Toro.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Hope, let's start with you.
This is such a Filoni episode too. I totally agree. Toro actually reminds me a lot of if Ezra Bridger or Kazuda Xiono were douchebags, because he has a lot of like their characteristics.
Yeah.
Heli would totally fit in on the Colossus. Toro would totally be running with like Vizago or Hondo. Like these are very Filoni characters.
Mhm.
I absolutely love both of these people, and what I love about episode 5 too, because Baby Yoda is in this episode as well, and he represents like what is the best of the Jedi, which is giving people hope. Heli doesn't smile until she has Baby Yoda in her arms, and that's the first time she smiles, and her entire body changes, and he gives her this hope and this kindness and this warmth. What was the original question?
I'm now thinking. So I was on J Guys and Jedi's a few weeks ago, and I discussed with Hope about Trace Martez and the Martez sisters. So I'm not at all surprised how much Hope loves these 3 episodes, because I feel like it's kind of in a similar wavelength. But as
it
I was
even has like
rewatching
the
it,
negative Dave Filoni trope, so whatever.
as I was
Like,
rewatching it, I was looking at the kid's pants, and he's rocking Ahsoka's like jumpsuit pants. I was all about those big bell-bottomy like worker pants.
But yeah, like this episode is so Filoni. Like even with the negative Filoni tropes, where Filoni has like a track record of killing female characters, but Star Wars does in general, but Filoni in particular has killed multiple female characters in the course of all of his shows. The treatment of Fennec Sand, Fennec is like the one thing I don't like about this episode, because you don't do that to Ming-Na Wen, but I wonder if she was
Right.
just an expensive contract and they just didn't want to keep that on there. But what the rest of the episode I do love. I love that we get the inclusion of the sign language. That's huge for
Yes.
representation. Like there's
Yes.
so many things firing on this, that Filoni is a very thoughtful director, and I find the more I watch this episode, the more I like it, because I catch more and more and more, and it's built in so well, and it screams animation. Peli and Toro would totally fit into any of his other works and be perfectly fine. And I think that's why a lot of people sometimes don't like this episode, because it is very animation, and sometimes it can be jarring to see an animation like characters in live action. But this is nothing different than what we see in Rebels or Resistance or Clone Wars.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I think most of us were not a huge fan of Mithril in the first episode.
He's no different from Peli.
100%. As I was watching this, I'm like, oh my god, like he's the same thing. Like, and now I'm looking forward to watching that one again and go, okay, no, I get him a little more. Emma, what was your takeaway from this episode?
I liked it a lot. I did need to watch it more than once to catch everything. I did like how callow Toro was. Like he's just so young, and like he's just the very picture of like someone who's bitten off more than they can chew and is full of bad ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it also gave us the opportunity to see, like as I've mentioned before, Mando growing into his tactical ability, because he did pretty well in this episode. And I liked how as soon as he came across Fennec's corpse, he immediately knew what happened. Like you could tell.
Because that was him.
Yeah.
That was the person that we meet his old crew, that's who he was when he met them. We weren't there yet, but that's who he was back then, I think. Mark P, do you have anything?
So
exactly. And like just very opportunistic. But yeah, no, that's everything I have to say for now.
Okay. I really enjoyed this episode. I mean, we heard a lot of the complaints about, it being fan service and all this, but I love that we got to go back to Tatooine. And like you said, the whole bar scene, it was comforting to go back to that, to see how things have changed. I find that this episode, to me, seems the more queer-friendly episode. You've got Amy Sedaris in it, who I didn't even recognize at first, but I was like, gosh, she looks like Ellen Ripley, like you mentioned. And to me, I am not going to hold back. I find Toro just extremely handsome. I fell in love with that man the moment I saw him. He's my
He's
first
cute.
Star Wars himbo, and I was just over the Endor moon when I saw him. And I like this character. Like I mentioned, I mean, he's just somebody who's like so in over his head, and he sold it. And people are like, oh, he's a horrible actor. I hate that character, and blah blah blah. And I'm like, I don't see that. Aside from the fact that I'm thirsty for this man, I liked his character. He served his purpose. I loved seeing them on the swoop bikes, them going over the desert again. Their interaction with the Sand People was super important. Fennec Shan, I loved her. Hopefully she's not wasted, and she better come back, or I'm not going to be happy. Because there just seems to be a lot there. I really don't think that they've just throw her away. Because obviously it's going to come back because of what happens at the end. But
Yeah,
we'll
we're just
see.
gonna have a good old like not queer but nerd out moment.
Yeah.
'Cause that's a lot.
Exactly. So yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. It is one of my favorites. So
Ian.
So there's a lot going on with this episode. There's like so much. I have a very much love-hate relationship with this episode. I think it's the weakest in the first season, but I love the fan service. I loved seeing the pit droids. Even just like the shot where it's literally taken from A New Hope. The very like beginning, like
Yep.
okay, the top of Tatooine with the little moon in the back, and then the same shot of like Mos Eisley, but then we get a ship going. Until it wasn't until this roundtable that I thought of Pelly as Ellen Ripley if she hadn't met the Xenomorph. And
Yep.
but the more I kept thinking about it, the more I was like, oh wow, like this really is true because she lights up, like was mentioned previously, she lights up when she sees Baby Yoda, the same way that Ellen Ripley lit up when she sees that one of the children is still alive.
Oh,
But
Newt.
that's another
Newt. Yes.
Newt. Yeah, yeah. But then the sign language, the interaction with the Tusken Raiders is one of my favorite bits of not just the episode but of the season because of what it does for representation and also for world building. Like there's a way to actually communicate with these indigenous people instead of just like, oh my God, it's these savage barbarians coming to attack us again. Like, no, these are the indigenous people, and you gotta like, there's a way to respect their ground. There's a way to respect them as a people. With Fennec Shan, I was so excited for her. I was so excited for the character, and then all of a sudden she gets shot at the end. I have a feeling myself that she's either still alive or gonna be severely wounded. I have a feeling, hopefully, that she'll be coming back next season. And the same. So as much. Sorry, I'm keep going on. But as much as I love all the fan service and the callbacks too, I've had this discussion with Mark P before, where it's almost like again we're here in this world and entire universe of Star Wars that's a universe that's larger than ours, but it's so small. And to me, that takes the suspension of disbelief. That takes away my suspension of disbelief. Like, here we are in this whole universe, but again, it's like we keep seeing the same things and encountering the same people in the same places, but in different contexts. It's just like, as much as I love coming back to Tatooine and as much as I love seeing everything, it's like, okay, again. So that's why I have like this very much love-hate relationship, and especially with the end too, which I'll hold off.
Yeah.
I mean,
It sounds interesting. I feel like Tatooine is where we go to be reborn. Like, I think about Luke in Return of the Jedi. He comes back, but he is not the Luke that was when he left. I feel like Mando comes, but he is not the person that he was when he's clearly been there before. I just I mean, to me, I totally see what you're saying. Like, I totally get it. There was a quote that George Lucas said at one point in time, and I feel like it was during the prequel era. I have tried searching on the internet for it, but he had said that most of the galaxy are desert planets, and so he wanted Star Wars to reflect desert planets because that's what's mostly going to be out there. And I know there's a lot of frustration with seeing desert planet after desert planet, but that's always been in the back of my head. And I think he said it during like the Phantom Menace days or something, somewhere in there. But yeah, it's just interesting. I clearly am in the minority. I'm on Twitter. I'm on having this great conversation with all of you. I am so happy that we went back to Tatooine. Like, I think there's so much more there than just nostalgia. At least here, I think it can be used the wrong way. I think about Rey. She's reborn. Where do we go? We go back home so we can be reborn again. Like, it is a metaphor for a turning point in all of our characters. Like, yeah. Anyways, I think I love it.
I mean, I'm with Ian too. Like, that's my Star Wars pet peeve. Like, it's a galaxy of tens of thousands of planets with 12 trillions of people, but some reason like we're still running into the same 12 guys going to the same 5 places. Like, and so much as I just want to see new stuff in Star Wars. Like, now that we're moving away from the Skywalker trilogy, like I want to see new characters, new places, new locations, and like I love the Skywalkers, but I'm also wanting to like what's over here. So
that's the fear with Ahsoka, which we'll get to. Mark, do you have anything to add before we nerd out?
Well, I'm glad that you let me go last because I'm kind of like Ian, and I'm not going to say I have a love-hate relationship with this episode. It's more like a love-indifferent relationship with it.
That's even worse.
Love apathy. I find it's an episode that I watch, and there are individual things in it that I love, like Amy Sedaris. Just absolutely adore Amy Sedaris. Love seeing the pit droids. Like the fan service aspects of it don't really bother me. Yeah, I agree. At Tatooine again, it's the planet furthest from the center of the galaxy. It's the least interesting planet to Luke Skywalker, but it appears to be the most interesting planet to everyone else. But I just didn't find the core plot and story with him and Toro and going to find this assassin just to be particularly interesting. Even though along the way there's lots of cool things to look at. I love the speeder bikes. I love that whole sequence. I love the music that plays over that. That is so 70s Western.
Yeah.
Me being a creature person, I of course love seeing banthas, and I absolutely love seeing dewbacks in a modern live action Star Wars movie. That tickled me a lot. And then it ends, with Ming-Na Wen is in it for like 5 minutes, and does great. But to me, it was like another example of like, to me, it's still what stings for me about Solo is like Tandy Newton being like basically off so quickly. Like Val was such a promising character and could have been, actually should have been the Beckett character, but we won't go there just yet.
100%.
And I just felt like this is another example of where they're either, okay, if they bring her back, which just in my heart of hearts, I feel like they're going to find a way to bring her back, then it'll be forgiven. But if this was like her cameo and this was the only thing that she's done in this series, I just feel like it was a waste of talent because she's Ming-Na Wen.
Yeah.
And for Toro, I want to say one thing about Toro. I saw him as the anti-Han Solo because he's introduced in the bar, sitting in the same place. It was very on the nose. It was very, okay, I get it. It's like he's supposed to be like Han Solo. And I kind of see him as being like the same kind of person that Han was, except for he ends up being like the despicable person that we know that Han deep down is not. And it was kind of a way of introducing him that way to say, look, here's a scoundrel who's kind of lovable, but then really isn't.
Yeah.
You know. And that, to me, that's about the depth of his, you know, his appeal to me.
I just like looking at him.
Yes.
Oh, he's you know, he's easy on the eyes.
So okay, let's
if I
let's
could,
just
No, but I know what you mean.
If
Let's-
I could pimp out like just another podcast, another queer podcast, Lousy Beautiful Town, when they covered these episodes, especially this one, did a really good job talking about the impact of Ming-Na Wen and what that meant, because one of their hosts is East Asian, and she talked about how like what that meant to her to have it suddenly just ripped away and how painful that was. So I do recommend everyone checking out Lousy Beautiful Town covering this episode because they
Okay.
really talked about that from an East Asian perspective, what Ming-Na Wen means to the community, what that character meant, what that build-up meant to suddenly have it ripped away and the pain that came with that. They did, I do want to pimp them out because it was a really good discussion.
Yeah, thank you. They are great. I've listened to a handful of their podcasts for sure.
Mhm.
I don't think she's gone. I just don't think. I hope not. For not even the character. I have a hard time personally, like looking at Star Wars as the actors portraying them. I just see them as the characters that they are because I'm just so live in that world that there's not even reality outside of it, which is probably makes me a little bit, off. But I don't think that character was too cool to go down like that. Like I think she's still playing everybody. So that comes to the end, which I think we are meant to think is Boba Fett. Everyone thinks it's Boba Fett. We
It
have
is.
the sound of spurs. I am convinced. I had my moment with the Darksaber like everybody did, but I had that Darksaber moment at the end of this because that is Cad Bane. At the end of this episode, there is a reason Dave Filoni wrote it. There's a reason Dave Filoni directed it. And there is a reason it is a very Dave Filoni episode. And Dave Filoni has already had a bounty hunter out there collecting Force-sensitive babies in season 1 of the Clone Wars, or season 2, season 1 of the Clone Wars. And Cad Bane is a effing rad character that a lot of the casual fans like Tom will not know who he is, so he will be a brand new character to so many people. He fits in this world, so like everything that they have going on, it is there. And at the heart of the show, it is now a show about people out searching for Baby Yoda. We don't know why, and now there are going to be bounty hunters after them. That's what season 2 is probably going to be about. And we already have canon. We already have a Dave Filoni character hunting these little babies, and now we have the Darksaber. So it's just even proof on the pudding that like Clone Wars is coming to the Mandalorian. So I doubled down on the fact that it was Cad Bane at that moment. So for a to take us to the next episode, who do we think it is at the end? Hope.
Well, first and foremost, you're saying his name wrong. He's Cad Boo because he's my boo. He's Cad Boo. y'all don't even know the list of nicknames I have. No, I want it to be Cad Bane too because Cad Bane's one of my favorite Star Wars characters. Like he's in my top 10. So I love that character too. But the logic in all this is how much do they want to keep casual fans versus deep diving fans? I feel like it might be a lot to have like Bo-Katan, Ahsoka, like all these animation fans come in because then you have to in turn explain who they are for the casual fan. And so I would love for it to be Cad Bane too because I love him. I love him so much. I don't want it to be Boba, but I'm just not a Boba Fett fan in general. Clone Wars, this is the first time I at least tolerated Boba Fett. I I've heard this. I haven't read the Aftermath books, but there's some sheriff on Tatooine that finds Boba's armor. I think that could be a way, because then it could be a new character that they don't really have to super define, because he'd be defined in the episodes. But I don't know. I'm in that thing of just not Boba. I don't want this to be the Boba Fett show. I've never wanted this to be the Boba Fett show. I don't care if it's Cad Bane or the sheriff or a brand new character. I just don't want it to be Boba Fett, because that's my fear with Ahsoka coming into this. That's my fear of all these other characters, because I don't want these big characters to take away from Din and Baby Yoda's story, and that's my fear of Boba being there, even though it could be interesting of what is an actual Mandalorian. Is it Boba or is it Din? Who is really a true Mandalorian? So there's, I don't know. Cad Boo, man. I want him to be Cad Boo. Give me my boo.
And I forget what those aliens are called, but they were in that cantina. More foreshadowing. Just saying.
Duros? They're Duros.
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 Yep, that's the only place we've ever seen them in live action. Just saying, putting it out there, willing it to the universe. Mark Marquis, how about you? What's your prediction?
I'm massive Cad Bane fan, so if that's the case, I'm going to be over the moon.
I want that new Black Series figure that's coming.
Oh my gosh!
So
Yes.
So good.
I think everyone assuming that it's Boba Fett and the Spurs, the sound of the Spurs is a bit of a red herring, because there is an earlier scene in an earlier episode where the Mando has a spur sound. So the spur sound is not exclusive to Boba Fett. So just putting that out there. But if it ends up being Boba Fett, I've really kind of been, again, indifferent about Boba Fett. I think he's, I've enjoyed him more in the prequels and sort of seeing his origin story, and then in the Clone Wars, seeing more of his origin story, especially in relation to the bounty hunters that he falls in with, than the original trilogy. But if it ends up being him, as long as it's just, as long as there's something added to this overall story, I agree with Hope. I think there is a danger of it becoming a cameo show where you just bring in all these other characters. But I kind of don't think that's going to happen. I think the thing with Ahsoka, I think we'll be surprised at how little of Ahsoka there is in this series. I think this is going to be a backdoor way to bring her into live action, but it's not going to be the focus. And the reason why I have faith in that is because we've already had the series Rebels, where we had cameos in that show as well. And it was always, the creators were always very, very quick to point out that this is not about those characters. It's not about Ahsoka. Ahsoka appears in Rebels, but it's not the Ahsoka show there, because the focus has to be on the central cast of characters. And I just think it's the same. They have the same priorities here as well.
100%. Emma.
I think you made a great point. Like, I've made a good case for it being Cad Bane. So I'm on board.
That's one conversion.
Especially with it being a Filoni, Filoni directed it and everything. Although one thing I do have to say about this episode that I forgot was that I did find it a little wanky, the shot of Fennec and Toro, like where they're silhouetted against the sunset. I was like, oh, this is just a director just showing off. Like, I bet he was so proud of that shot.
I've always had to illustrate that. I didn't really do it.
I just had to say, like, I saw it and I was just like, oh, this is just something that someone is so pleased with themselves that they did. All right, that's enough.
Ian.
I'm good now.
So it appears, at least so far, that I'm in the minority. I think it's so there's two possibilities for me. It's either Boba Fett, and I think it's Boba Fett, or it's Hope alluded to the Aftermath trilogy. It's either Boba Fett or Cobb Vanth, who had taken Boba Fett's armor. And I think it's Boba Fett because shout out to Haas Burkhart and Will Witten at Blue Harvest. they did like a deep dive of the sound effects that we hear, the boot spurs, that radio frequency, that we, Bree pops up anytime Boba is near in the armor. Those are exclusively heard together with Boba Fett in the original trilogy. And I remember when this episode first came out, I went and I was also in the middle of a Clone Wars rewatch. And anytime that Cad Bane appeared on screen in Clone Wars, I tried to pay attention for any of those sound effects giveaways, the spurs and that radio frequency. And they were never, you couldn't hear it with Cad Bane. So to me, those sounds aren't related to him. So for me, that excludes the possibility of it being Cad Bane. But there's also a line right before the Mandalorian leaves Toro alone with Fennec Shand. The Mandalorian tells Toro Calican, keep an eye on her, make sure that she stays alive because she's no good to us dead. So to me, that is also another big giveaway that it's at least Boba Fett. But yeah, if it's not Boba Fett, then to me it's Cobb Vanth. But also the fact that Tamora Morrison is cast for season 2, and there's apparently a leak of his resume that like an updated resume that his agent put out, and it says, Boba Fett. So I don't know if it's not him, then I think we can at least expect some kind of Boba Fett appearance somewhere down the line.
It's quite possible. All right, Mark, I see lots of excited head movements in agreement.
Well, it's like I love what everybody's added to this because, after hearing what Ian said, yeah, it's very, very, very possible it's going to be Boba Fett, which I'm cool with them bringing that character in as long as it's done right. We don't want anybody shoehorned in. Like we said, we don't want it to be a cameo fest in the end, which, I don't think it's going to happen as well. But I have to add to the Cad Bane love because I would love to see that character. That's one of my favorite Clone Wars characters. So it's a hard call. I would love to see it all happen, and who knows, maybe we will get it all. So, but it's exciting either way.
It's very possible.
Why not both?
Yeah,
if I
right?
could,
Both.
if I could also just say quickly too that just because I think it might be Boba Fett or Cobb Vanth, like I love Cad Bane too. In fact, I would love if if Cad Bane and Hondo showed up somewhere in an episode, or because Hondo, I personally love. I'm a little bit biased. I love Hondo a little bit more than Cad Bane, but this idea though, like, because Filoni brought back Darth Maul, and we all thought Darth Maul was dead. Boba Fett's supposed to be digested for 1,000 years. Like, I don't know. Star Wars, just like all the fan service in this episode, and then everyone not dying in Traz, and then dying and then not dying. It's totally in the realm of possibility.
I mean, Admiral Trench in Clone Wars has been blown up like 3 times on like 2 different ships. I mean, and he just comes back with more mechanical spider arms. So,
yeah, right?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
It's like,
I'm gonna have my one more. Before we're gonna take a quick break, but one more reason for Cad Bane, because wasn't there those animatics and there was the script where Boba Fett may or may not have killed Cad Bane, and that was never aired, but we saw some stuff, right? And now Dave Filoni has the opportunity to have Cad Bane kill Boba Fett.
It could be a whole thing that he thinks that the Mando is Boba Fett, and he's looking for revenge. I mean,
yeah. I don't know.
Oh, that's a
Anyways,
good point.
Let's take a quick break, and we will be right back. And we're back. So here we are at chapter 6. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other people to convince me how great this episode is because I sadly am not a fan. I'm going to start with positives because I would like to think that I'm a pink milk full half full kind of dude. The music is the best of the series of the season. I think the music in this episode is so rad. I think I think I said it on the podcast. I can't remember if I shared this before we started recording, but my family and I went and saw The Empire Strikes Back this past week. So Empire Strikes Back is very top of mind, and there is a scene in this episode to jump forward like we do on this review podcast where I'm not sure how baby Yoda really is. And I know there's been stuff people discussing, is he really playing everybody? He's really not that big of a baby. But there was something because when was his name Zero, the droid, is like hunting him down, he's got like that little kid knows what he's doing and he's teasing him and to get away. But there was a line in Empire Strikes Back that I've heard 1,000 times before, but after just watching The Mandalorian and seeing Baby Yoda, it made me think there's a line that Yoda, we know in Return of the Jedi, he's 900-ish years old. So he's 900 years-ish old in The Empire Strikes Back, because it's what, like a year or something before, 6 months before Jedi or something along those lines. And Yoda says for the last 800 years he's been training Jedi. So I'm not going to take your cancel, little boy. I'm like, Baby Yoda's got a whole lot of growing up to do in 50 years. In 50 years, he's only that, and Yoda's over there training Jedi. So I'm wondering, it just made me go, is Baby Yoda maybe not quite as baby-like as he's leading on right now? I don't know, but I'm sure it will get covered. So I want to start with Ian because I know Ian and Hope both love this episode. Our other guests, I'm not totally sure where they fit on this. Mark brought up that chapter 4 was very Star Trek-like. I've said many times on this podcast, I'm really dumb and I'm old and can't like both Star Wars and Star Trek. But I will say I am a fan of Farscape. And the costumes on this episode pull me out of Star Wars every time because I really dislike the costuming. And it feels very Farscape-like, which again, huge fan of Farscape, but Farscape and Star Wars are not the same thing. So for me, that's what I'm having a hard time getting past I think it's the costumes. And that's probably really trivial and super nerd nitpick, but I'm having a hard time getting there. But thank God for the music because the music is fantastic. So Ian, let's start with you.
So
why is this episode so great?
So this episode, there's so many good things about this episode. For me, it's easily top 3. We already discussed the music, but everything else, the cinematography there's so many beautiful shots in this episode. The acting, I think, is really well done. We even get one of the best character actors to show up here, Mark Boone Jr., who was the bad cop in Batman Begins. Just he's just a bad person, a seedy person in everything he does. So as soon as you see him, okay, something's gonna happen somewhere in this episode with this guy, and it's not gonna be what it seems. The acting is on point. The chemistry of everyone, as much as the characters despise each other and joke with each other, there's really a great chemistry here between the actors and everyone. particularly Xi'an and Natalia Tena's portrayal of Xi'an. I love Xi'an. And I love Natalia Tena's portrayal of Xi'an, you know, the little like snarls and like the giggle, like I don't know. I don't know. I thought she did a really great job in portraying her and the sexual chemistry and tension between her and Mando from the past. And I love the line, like, you know, I forget his name, the bald comedian. You know, he's like, "Did you two make that?" Like,
Oh, Mayfield.
yeah, Mayfeld.
Bill Burr, is that his name? I can't remember.
Bill Burr. Yeah. Yeah, I love, you know, like, is this thing yours? Like, is this a result of you? But also the editing in this episode is, I think, the best in the entire season here. The scene transitions, and then also, more so, I feel like, than even in any Star Wars movie, are the screen wipes and the intelligent use of the screen wipes, going along with the camera. And then one of the coolest parts is the droids, the guard droids. I said this last week, I'm a huge fan of Knights of the Old Republic. I saw those guard droids, and I immediately thought, okay, HK-47, here we go. Like, we know these droids are gonna like try to like blow some stuff up in these hallways. Like, I thought it was really cool. They kind of sort of got that influence in there. But
Were
also,
you the one that was mentioning also that it's very Cowboy Bebop, or was that Mark Perez?
that was me, and I'm about to get into this right now.
Okay.
Yeah, that got me excited.
I did watch it with that lens, and it is very Cowboy Bebop. I never thought about that before.
This episode is the most like anime Star Wars episode of anything ever, and I love it. Like, I don't know. It's just, I don't know. It's like a live action Cowboy Bebop episode. You know, you have these bounty hunters. They're confronting their past in many ways, which will either hurt them, help them. Have to go in and grab this person and then get out of there. And then also, just like at first I hated it, but then when we got that Roundtable documentary series, you know, they had the cameos of 3 of the directors, and then of course, like, Dave Filoni's character's name is Trapper Wolf, and at first I was just like, wow, he's really a bad actor. Like, he seems so bored. But then, you know, in the documentary series, saw like they wanted Rick Famuyiwa wanted him to be like, yeah, you're super bored, so play bored and be bored. Seem as disinterested in possible, because Dave Filoni was disinterested in going on screen. I don't know. It was just like hilarious at the end. You know, he's like, oh, okay, like, let's blow fire, and like that was like, I don't know, so much. I love it. Everything about it.
Yeah, I will say it did look beautiful. The red towards, you know, the
red,
good.
the white,
and Rick Famuyiwa. I'm not even gonna pretend like I know how to pronounce his name. Can shoot Baby Yoda like no one else. Like, he knows how to use that camera with that cute little thing. And I mean, like, the shots of Baby Yoda in this are so, like, they are perfection. Absolute perfection. They're perfection in chapter 2, the whole thing with him trying to heal Din and all. Perfection. Nobody else can shoot him like he does. And just real quick side note, remember when we all thought Mayfeld was Dash Rendar in that first trailer before we saw the show, and we're all excited to see Dash Rendar come? No, nobody else remembers. I was there alone. It was very big news here in the Berry house, so I just assumed it was big news everywhere else. All right, Mark, what are your thoughts? Mark Marquis.
It is initially the first time I saw it, I was a little bit kind of like with the way I was with episode 5, which was a little different. But I've every time I watch it, I like it more. And this past time when I watched it, I was just kind of like, I realized, the appeal of this episode for me is all about the actors. It is like a character actor just showcase. Um, Clancy Brown is fantastic. I absolutely adore Clancy Brown. He's worked on Rebels. He's worked in Star Trek.
He was Savage
Lost.
Opress and
Exactly, Clone Wars. But the thing that I noticed this time was I paid a lot of attention to the music, and because I'm a really big fan of the music, and I listened for the ways that the music sort of mirrors what the story's doing. And I noticed this time that do you all know the little pan flute motif that plays when the Mando walks into a new place and you hear that little pan flute play? Yeah, that's his signature like motif. When you watch this episode, that theme is played out, but it's skewed, and the notes are a little more shrill, and sometimes the notes go into a different key, and it has the same structure. It's playing the same motif, but it's just warped somehow. And so from the very onset, the music's telling us that this is a world that Din is familiar with, but he doesn't feel like he's still in sync with these people. From the very beginning, there is tension in this episode that never lets up. And that tension is really what hooks me in to this episode. There's just so many moments that I could highlight. I mean, I don't want to, ramble on too much here, but the moment on the ship between Mayfield and the Mandalorian where, I think that the group senses that he's changed as well. Even they're all talking about, oh, this guy's, he's a badass, and, oh, remember the good old days. I think they all sense that he's changed too, and he's not one of them anymore. And I think it plays out on the ship when Mayfield is essentially, he's not just taunting him, he's essentially saying that he's going to violate him by removing his helmet. And that scene is so chilling to me. And the way that, it's played by the actors, it's just very, very menacing. I'm sure there are other people who are going to go on and on about, I love Xi'an. I love Xi'an's chaotic energy. I love the sort of razor's edge that she's always on. I love the little fiddle motif that plays during her scenes. She feels dangerous. She feels like a live wire. I think overall, as a episode, sort of more of an episodic episode that sort of shows us a Ocean's 11 kind of break into some place kind of episode, it's fine. But just like with the previous episode, I think that we're going to see these characters down the road. I think there's a reason why they were left alive at the end of the episode. Well, primarily to show that the Mando he's not going to kill them. That's not who he is anymore. But I think these people are going to be coming back in some capacity, and they enthralled me enough in this episode that I would welcome that if they do return.
Awesome. Emma, how about for you?
I enjoyed the episode a lot. I really liked the sort of tonal shift, and I find it really gave us a lot of insight that other people have spoken about in talking about the episode. The things that struck me while I was watching it were what does this say about the New Republic? For one thing, visually seeing the New Republic use droids very much in the way that we're accustomed to the Empire using droids, which we're not so much accustomed to seeing visually. When we've seen rebels represented visually, mouse droids, I don't necessarily associate with. So, it seems sort of like this sort of visual language was being employed. to signify that it's sort of just like plus ça change, plus c'est la même chose. Like the more it changes, the more it's the same. And the other thing that struck me was the whole concept of the tracker, and of the tracker being assured destruction for the prison ship. Because again, like, what does that say about the New Republic? Like, has everybody on the ship had a trial? Do they have finite sentences? Like, is this where they keep the worst of the worst? Or are these people that, if the tracker wasn't deployed in X amount of time, would they have considered to have paid their debt to society and be able to go free? But someone presses a button and they're sentenced to immediate death. Like, what does that say about the way that the New Republic is operating? Like, how does justice work in this world now? What kind of, like, what attitudes do people have about due process, and what the role that imprisonment has, or the role of rehabilitation? So those are the things that I think of when I watch the episode. And I rewatching again today, I noticed that the X-Wings did not specifically blow up the space station. They only aggressed the gunship. But, like, I mean, who's to say that couldn't lead to a chain reaction that would blow up the space station? It's like, does everyone in that space station deserve to die because there was an active tracker on the space station? Is anybody asking these questions? Or is the New Republic swooping in to, like, blow people up for spurious reasons?
I think that's interesting. We learn a little bit about that in Bloodline. Like, they tackle a lot of those things in that book, which was really, really well done. I think that's interesting. Hopefully we'll go into some of that a little bit, because we are following a bunch of bounty hunters, and who are they working for and why, and there's all this we don't ask and we don't tell, and nope, you're just here, and kind of who's behind those motivations. That's interesting.
It's almost like our own system where, a certain race of people in America can get shot for being, like, drunk, or just existing, or not having a proper trial, or having, defending your own home when the people in charge come in and shoot you while you sleep.
Yeah, it's like, all of these droids and all of these ships and everything, they have the emblem of the New Republic painted on them, but does that mean that what they're doing is right?
I'm glad you brought that up, because there's a the shot at the end of A New Hope with the medal ceremony is very similar to a shot in the Nazi propaganda movie Triumph of the Will. And I've seen, like, a couple of think pieces on it. I've never actually heard Lucas address it, but Lucas was a student of film, and that's one of the films that he studied while in film school. And I feel like it's not an accident that he's using imagery that we associate with those rallies to show that, yes, the rebellion won, the good guys won, but this militaristic award ceremony has these overtones of, like, be careful though what you wish for. Like, if your goal is to overthrow an oppressive empire, and then you have all the power, are you going to do better? I think that's kind of the subliminal message behind it, whether that's the intent or not. So I'm glad you brought that up, Emma, because that's a very good point. And that's something that I think always kind of lurks in the background of all these stories when we talk about the New Republic. It obviously failed, but I think there's a whole lot more to explore there as far as why it failed and where potentially it was going to go.
I mean, they kind of talk about that a little bit in Resistance as well, because I forgot which episode it is, but it's a season 1 episode, and Poe gives Kazuda a blaster, and he's like, I've never shot one of these before. Kazuda went to a military academy. He was flying for the New Republic, and he'd never shot a blaster before. And Poe was like, well, what did you shoot? And he was like, well, we used simulations. I've never actually held a real gun before. And Poe was just like, wait, what? Because they demilitarized it so much, which is why, to me, it kind of justified having the droids there.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, Clone Wars follows, I think, that line of thought you were on, Mark, a lot of times. We have Satine who thinks one way. We have Padme who's doing the right thing, but is willing to do what it takes. We have people questioning whether or not she should be doing those things. If I remember correctly, she questions whether or not she should be doing those things. I mean, that at the heart is what Star Wars is. Star Wars used to be, when we were kids with the original trilogy, it was easy to talk about. There's the bad guys and the good guys. And now, I was talking to my youngest son when we were leaving The Empire Strikes Back, and Star Wars is not so easy to explain to kids anymore. The idea of a Jedi is not really that, at least the way I look at them, they're not good.
Saw
And
Gerrera is technically a good guy, and he's a terrorist.
Mhm. Yeah.
exactly, but but a Jedi needs to be a hero to the children still. Like it's the prequels did a great job with that. The Clone Wars do a great job with giving kids the heroes they need. And as they get older, they can see the flaws in them. But I do think I love what you brought up with all of this, and I hope it gets addressed a little bit later, which it's here. So maybe it's here for a reason, and it will be addressed. Because I think it cuts to what Star Wars is. It cuts to what the prequels brought to Star Wars, I should say, and brought to Star Wars going forward. That unfortunately the sequel trilogy tried to brush under the rug after it was there and bring it back to a simple thing, which it isn't anymore. But this is not a rag on the Rise of Skywalker episode.
We still, in The Last Jedi, I mean, we have the beautiful, awesome character of D-Day, who's one of my favorite Star Wars characters ever. And he perfectly illustrates to both Finn and Rose. The bad guys aren't always the bad guys, and the good guys aren't always the good guys. And wherever there's money to be made, there's a war. Or the other way around, wherever there's a war, there's money to be made. And, and even in the Clone Wars, Ahsoka and I forget the kid's name, but they kind of have like it's kind of, but not really. They're like best friends, and he's like the son or the nephew.
Yes.
Yes. They represent to me, the most identifiable aspect of the Confederacy of Independent Systems. The Republic isn't good. The Separatists aren't good, but there's that like middle ground that you got to fight for something that's better. And again, it's illustrated too in Rogue One. Like, what exactly is Cassian doing, and what are these secret, off-the-record missions he's got?
Yeah, the first time you see Cassian, he murders someone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mark, do you have anything about this episode?
Oh, okay. Well, look, I really, 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 really went into watching this again with an open mind, and I still do not like this episode as much as I've tried. I really wanted to. It's my least favorite. I don't like the acting in it, with the exception of some of the actors. Jan, like, now I see her a little bit differently, but I don't care for that actress, so it just kills it for me. I know that's total blasphemy because she's, cool character in Harry Potter and whatnot, but I didn't care for it at all. I love Clancy Brown in it. I love the droids. I love I'm trying to think of the actor from, I think it's the It Crowd who did Zero, if I remember correctly, maybe I have that wrong. He was really cool. The gentleman that was the leader of the whole group, who I think Ian mentioned earlier, he was cool. I actually liked him a lot more this time around. I was like, he's kind of cool. Like, I would love to see him come back. I don't know that we will, obviously, because who knows what happened, who died and who didn't, but there's certain elements of it that I do appreciate. The director X-Wings at the end, it was great. That was awesome. And Matt Lanter making a cameo.
Yeah, I was ready to say that. I was ready to say that.
It was so cool to see him, because I was like, wait a minute, why does he look so familiar? I'm like, oh my god, so it's like, it's Matt Lanter. So there are things I like about it. It's just that overall, I was like, it just reminded me of a bad 80s B movie, which I was like, this is not what I wanted to see, but whatever. Anyway, that being said, there are elements of this, like you mentioned earlier with Baby Yoda. Like, how much is he playing the whole group as to this whole baby kind of aspect of himself? something I'm going to go back to about episode 5 that I don't know if people have mentioned it much since then. There's that scene where Baby Yoda's coming off of the Razor Crest, and you hear this weird howl, and I don't remember anybody talking about that. Like, was he like what does that mean? It's like a little scary. It's like, did he transform into something else? It's like, what's going on? So yeah, there's more there. I mean, much later it gets brought up that it said, that he's not what you think he is, sort of thing.
Yep.
So
well, there's an undercurrent of there's something going on with Baby Yoda, and I don't know whether the show's going to address it specifically, but if you watch closely, like, there are moments where the camera very intentionally cuts to Baby Yoda whenever he's observing acts of violence. Particularly in the first few episodes, they make a point to cut to the fact that the child is noticing this or seeing this. And just in the way that the Mando is changing for the better through his association with the child might be changing for the worse.
Yeah.
Just because of the life he's being exposed to is it's seeping into him in ways that we don't know how a Force-sensitive child is going to handle this. Because Force-sensitive children have had the Jedi Order to help shape and guide them and make the right decisions, hopefully, but that doesn't exist anymore. So that's possibly a sort of plot point that might be explored by the show.
Well, and then the whole thing that happens to Ben Solo, right? So we have this view of, okay, so what was the guidance and raising of children like before Order 66?
Yeah.
And what was it like after?
Was that considered like nature versus nurture sort of thing? Going back to, but I'll end it with this, with what M and then also Mark brought up about the the rebellion and what they're willing to do, while they're in charge, so to speak. And then going back to Mark had mentioned about the Leni Riefenstahl film. Not only that throne room scene, like you said, it looks very much like scenes from Triumph of the Will, but I've had a good friend of mine tell me how much the throne room theme itself is very much of that era as well too. So yeah, it's interesting. I'm a little creeped out about that now, but even though I love the hell out of that scene, but I'm like, oh yeah, it's like there's a lot of like a lot of behind the scenes stuff that we don't think about how them being in power. So anyway.
Well, I do think, Mark P, I think you just solved the greatest mystery. Baby Yoda has been playing everyone because he is not actually a yodeling. Zam Wessel survived, and he is a shapeshifter, and he is still out to get Luke Skywalker to end the Padme bloodline. She is going to get that bounty, if nothing else, somehow. There you go. So, yeah, thank you. I mean, honestly, I think I'm looking forward to listening to y'all discuss this next bit. I did not like Xi'an at all.
Oh, I haven't
until
do this.
Until we have started having these conversations, and I am not the Star Wars nerd enough to have noticed some of the things until Hope brought it to me, actually probably a month ago, when we were starting to put this whole thing together. And I've since watched heard that episode. It's still not my favorite, but I have liked that and enjoyed that character so much more, with the hopes that everything that Hope is about to bring up was intentional. And what I want to talk about these things because I do hope that some of the things that we're going to discuss next were intentional decisions made by the actor, by the writers, by everyone with Xi'an. And I find it interesting. There's a theory that Xi'an is actually a trans character, and there are a lot of clues to that being the case, right down to the performance, which has now shifted the way I look at that performance and enjoy it a lot more than I did, with the hopes that it was an intentional performance. So with that said, there is something going on with the Mandalorian of reality versus storytelling, and we're going to run the rest of this conversation with the idea that portraying Xi'an as a trans character was intentional. So that's how we're gonna continue this conversation. That if that is what they were trying to do, we have one of its main stars, Gina Carano. We have discussed it on this episode on this podcast a little bit before, so you can go check out episode 37. So we don't need to spend time talking about some of the things she's done, but she has not been a very supportive person of our trans brothers and sisters and people of our community. And so it's a really interesting thing that the creators of the show are hopefully intending on putting this out there and giving us something that we all desperately need, and it will be very exciting to see this. But then in reality, one of their main stars very much being the counter to that progression. And it made what Gina Carano doing that much more disappointing. And it's not only Gina Carano. We've brought up, there are rumors that Ahsoka Tano is coming back. The rumors suggesting maybe confirmed today after this podcast, we'll all be digging in trying to figure out that if Rosario Dawson is going to in fact play Ahsoka Tano, who she herself is under investigation or is being sued right now by a person living the trans experience of not being very supportive of this person. So this will be two characters, one of which clearly by the beginning of this episode is not only my very favorite character, being portrayed by someone who does not represent what that character would ever represent. And it's going to, if all of this comes to light, it will be very, very difficult for me on a personal level. I'm sure everybody, I won't speak for everybody else, but for me to be excited to have Ahsoka here if she's going to be betrayed by a person like that, because that is the antithesis of what Ahsoka Tano stands for anyways. But I do want to say we've mentioned a few times, and those listening to this, a lot of, unless you're like Tom, who's more of a casual fan, are on Star Wars Twitter a lot, and it can be a very horrible place to be in. Sometimes there's a lot of toxic fans, unfortunately. But there was Maggie of the Town, Candace at Geeky Waffle, and Eric at Living Force Pod put together a tremendous fundraiser for the Trans Law Center, and Star Wars fans came together, and for that while it spoke volumes to the quiet storm that is the Star Wars fan, and those of us who really love Star Wars, to me, follow its values and stand for one another. And they were able to raise over $10,000 for this cause. So it's a really, really wonderful thing to see in this show, progression happening. Hopefully in reality there isn't regression going to meet it, but then at the end the fans coming back together and saying, no, we want what's being portrayed on screen, don't give us the garbage that's in reality, give us what's on screen. And we all came together for that. So I wanted to talk about that because I'm very proud of that. It's something that I never thought I would experience with this podcast when we first started it. I wanted to have LGBTQ representation in Star Wars because at the time, which I've said many times, I did not know there was anyone else speaking to Star Wars from my specific lens, from our specific lens, but I did not think that's what the show was going to be about. I thought that the catchy part of the show was Tom, who's forced to listen because there are more people who are forced to listen to us nerds talk about Star Wars all the time. That is not what caught on with the show, and I'm very happy for that because, you know, it's pushed me out more than I ever thought it would. So to see not only money being raised, you know, for this cause, I myself have experienced a lot of support from non-LGBTQ people who have been very supportive of the show, who have been very supportive of Tom and I, who've been very supportive of my family, and for us sharing our voices. So it's been a humbling experience. With my ramble, I would like to leave this conversation with y'all, and I would like to start with Hope.
Well, to touch on what Marquis said, this is such a gay episode to me, though. Like, it's so gay on so many different levels. But let's talk about Xi'an because I I will address this because it's not a theory that I came up with. I think I first heard about it on Geeky Bubble. It was either Geeky Bubble or Lousy Beautiful Town or Sky Talkers. It was one of those three. And the whole idea with Twi'leks or Twi'leks, because both are acceptable to say, is that female Twi'leks have cones for ears, and male Twi'leks have actual ears. And the thing is that's why actually a lot of female Twi'leks, like Hera, they actually have to have ear covers that are wide to fit over their cones, like Hera Syndulla. But then, so the fact that Xi'an has really flat things that would actually hurt her ear cones. And also, Twi'lek women have smooth heads. If you look at the band of Xi'an's headband, right under it, there's an eyebrow bulge there. Only male Twi'leks have that eyebrow bulge, but hers isn't as pronounced as her brother's. So, and then there's a bunch of back and forth about teeth filing. Males typically file their teeth, but it's not unheard of that females do too, but it's more of a male filing to have fangs and stuff like that. So that's where the idea of Xi'an could possibly be a trans woman came about, is that she has these male physical features, but she is living as a female. So that's where that theory came about. So
That's very interesting. Have any of you thought about this or read any of these theories or have any comments to say?
I wasn't aware of I'm not familiar enough with the Twi'leks to have known that. And so I started doing some research, and I uncovered I think maybe the same articles were written. Also her performance with the hissing and the growling, that's something that Twi'lek males tend to do. And so that's another indicator. So yeah, once I learned that, I found it really fascinating. The entire performance to be really, really, really interesting. I think that's one of the things that drew me in more this time on this watch was looking for those little clues. And yeah, I mean, I learned something. I guess that's all I can say. It was a learning experience.
No, that's awesome. I mean, that's what I hope this does, if it's intentional. I hope there's room for those things. Ian, how about you?
Yeah, so I'm kind of just like floored, to be honest. I have no, I'm not really familiar with the like anatomical structure of Twi'leks and Twi'lek men versus Twi'lek women. So this is like, I mean, hey, a trans character, I'm trans, like I'm all here for it. I'm not going to deny any representation. So I think it's really cool, and I'm really glad to actually like have some people on here to discuss this with and to like digest with, because like it's really amazing, like being able to like open my eyes and see another character who I had already really loved, and now I have another reason to love.
I mean, that's one of the reasons why I like Xi'an so much too, is when it comes to like Twi'lek women, like we only really have two spectrums. We have Hera Syndulla and slaves. And like, so to have Xi'an being like, I actually didn't like Xi'an to begin with, but the more I've fallen in love with her more and more as I see her. And then I found this whole theory about her possibly being trans, which then really adds a lot to Mando's queerness, because like we saw how he was with Omera, and then we know that this was his ex as well. It gives like an even more spectrum of who he used to be, who he is now. And I fell in love with this character, and we need more examples of Twi'lek women and just kind of women in Star Wars, because when you have the species where it's either slave girl or Hera, and there's this whole middle section that needs to be filled in, maybe it is more normal that maybe most Twi'leks on Ryloth are more like her, like, because Numa is very aggressive too. We see Numa in both Rebels and Clone Wars, and she's a very aggressive woman too. So maybe Xi'an is closer to the norm.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like like I'm looking forward to watching this episode more. Now that because I have watched it since. I liked that portrayal a lot more since this theory that you shared with me, Hope.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about like this episode is so gay on so many levels. Like Mark Marquis started like saying this about how he's the outlier in this group. We've been talking about that. Like us as queer people, like sometimes we come out like we are the outliers sometimes to our own people that we used to grow up with. And that's how I
Yes.
saw so much of this episode of like
Yes.
who we are now after we're openly queer versus who we were before when we were in the closet.
Mhm.
And that's like and sometimes you can't go back to that norm, and some people are fine. Like some people are like perfectly okay with how you used to be, but some people like just can't adjust that. Like I had a childhood friend when I grew up with her. We've known her mom dated my dad like when they were in middle school, so like that's how far back our families go back. And after I came out to her, like we just never reconciled our friendship because she couldn't see me as being openly queer. And it's just that's how this episode felt to me, is just who we used to be versus who we are now after we come out. And does our old world come with us? And sometimes it doesn't come with us once we have become a different person. And there's so much about the actual Mando character too, of like who he's become. And there's personal things I love about this episode. Like Mayfield is my favorite type of Imperial. I love that type of Imperial. So it's just there's so many layers to this episode, which it's hidden and masked in this action film, but there's so many social layers and commentary layers, and I love it so much. I love this episode. Matt Lanter, I mean, come on. Matt Lanter. He's also in Timeless, and my stepmom was a big fan of Timeless, and she's been doing my homework with me because I've been trying to get her into Star Wars, and she was like, oh, "It's the man from Timeless." And I was like, "Yes, he's not Anakin Skywalker or anything." She's like, "Oh, I loved him in Timeless."
Tom was
Another really good show.
yeah, Tom was like, "Oh, that's him? That's the same person?"
Yeah.
Super cute.
Mark
He's
Perez.
so good.
All right.
Yes.
So with this being this layer of the Xi'an character, I'm all for it. I would love to see them just go for it, instead of a little wink wink, let's just do it. And if we do see the character come back, or we see the whole group come back, because they may not come back for the next season, we may skip a season and see them come back. I would love to see them kind of again go all out along with the director and say somebody like the Wachowskis come and do the episode, because then you're like,
Yeah.
okay, this is exactly what they're going for, and that to me would speak volumes.
Wow.
So that's what I would
Yep.
love to see.
Okay, you've put that
Oh,
thought in
yeah.
my head, and I am in love with that idea.
So
Same.
that's where I would love it to go.
If we're speaking,
I love The Matrix. It's up there with some of my favorite movies. And
Yes.
knowing what the Wachowskis were going through personally while making that film, and watching them knowing where they are now and who they've allowed themselves to share publicly, it changes that entire film. Like all three, like so much of those movies, they were already great, and now to see it through that lens, and like it's just it is mind-blowing. There are some podcasts out there that do a really good job of discussing those things, and I agree. I mean, I thank you for putting that in all of our heads, because I know I didn't go there. Of
I mean,
how
'cause
great would that be?
practically it's probably just a practicality thing. Like they just didn't have budget to do like full ear cones and everything. But that's where we need to be here and raise our voices and be like, no, she's trans to us. Like keep her as this. And we need to become more vocal of that. Like this is what we want to see. So
Mhm.
I mean, I hate to, like, the logical side of me is probably just a budget thing. To like just cover her ears and make it simpler. But then like why give her the male prosthetic for her eyebrows when that's not the norm? Like we need to be more vocal and be like, and make sure it's known that this is something that we want as fans, for her to be a trans character.
Yeah, 100%. And it speaks volumes to Mando, and like all like it just it can carry so much weight. Emma, do you have any thoughts?
One of the things that I noticed, talking about signifiers, is actually that the Leku are a little bit more beefy than you see on strictly female Twi'lek. So yeah, that I'm sure that construction was a conscious choice.
Yeah, do we think that this was intentional? No.
No,
I really don't. I honestly
you think they were
it
just
was-
clumsy?
I think it was budget. I don't. I've been burned so much by Star Wars when it comes to queer rep that
Yeah.
I feel and actually as Disney as a company, I talked about this in episode 1. I don't ever trust Disney with queer rep, because they let everybody else get burned first before they slide in like the heroes. So like I honestly don't think it was intentional, but I think if they saw it, they'd be like, oh yeah, we'd always plan that. Like so.
Oh, that's sad.
I mean, because
I don't trust them enough.
one of the things that I was speaking to Tom and I spoke about this obviously, and one of the things I had mentioned is, you know, people like Dave Filoni know what they're doing, and is this his way of slipping representation in that's going to go under the nose of absolutely everybody else, full well knowing, because Dave Filoni knows the fans and he knows what they will pick up on, full well knowing what the fan reception will be, and this was his way of going up underneath Disney, you know, around them to like give us representation, and then once it's out there, you can't back away from, or I mean they could, but
Well, that's the trick though. It being
I
out
would-
there is
Yeah.
the trick, because if he doesn't confirm it, the show doesn't
Mhm.
confirm it, then it's queer baiting.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
that's
I
the
mean, that's-
definition of queer baiting.
That was Callus and Zeb. That's technically Orca and Flix. Orca and Flix
Right.
are the first openly queer couple in Star Wars, but we don't know if they're
Yeah.
husbands or boyfriends.
Yeah.
And like, but that is the trick, because they just had to do that in DuckTales. The most recent episode last week of DuckTales, they just there's a character named Penny, and she's from the moon. She's an alien. She's from the moon, and she says, "Well, I just don't want to date Earth males." And the creator who wrote the episode said that was our way to get around Disney to say that she's a lesbian, because we couldn't actually use the words lesbian in DuckTales.
Can I
And
just? Oh, sorry. Go
oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, Hope. I love that you always bring us queer representation in animation, because I can always get like the latest news from you where that's concerned. Like after last week, I was like,
It's
"Dude,
revelatory."
She's like, you got like all this information. I'm like, oh,
Well,
that's awesome. I
That's
want to
my
go look
brand.
into that.
Like that's my brand. Like I over at Geeky Girl Experience, I analyze animation. Like that is my brand.
Sweet.
But Dana Terrace had to do the exact same thing with Owl House. Like she had to go to different execs in Disney's company to find the exec that would let her have a bi lead. And she even said recently in an interview that certain execs still in Disney wasn't going to let her do that. So she had to go to others to get it green lighted, and she had to shop around a Disney show within Disney's company to find the people to let her do queer rep. I mean, it's so like, no, I don't think Xi'an was purposeful, but I think if we push for it, it will become purposeful.
Hmm.
We
Because
should
I
make
just-
a
I trust
hashtag.
Dave-
Xi'an
yeah.
is trans.
I trust Dave
There we
Filoni. I
go.
don't trust Disney.
yeah, I mean
Agree.
that's really disappointing, and a sour note to end the episode on, but that's the reality that we're in. I mean, I hope you're wrong, Mark, and I hope I hope it wasn't queer baiting, and I hope it wasn't, I want to think that it was intentional. I want to think that it was the only way they had to go around it. Sadly, it takes people like Oscar Isaac and
Pedro Pascal.
yeah,
but
like
oh.
yeah, it takes them to go out and put it out there because they weren't allowed to do it. So fine, I'm going to say it anyways. And it takes that forceful protest and that purposeful just speaking it and speaking, it didn't happen, and being outwardly ticked off that it didn't happen. And, Dave Filoni, Dave Filoni's too smart for, like, he's too smart to make those mistakes. And I think I feel, as a massive Dave Filoni fan and the structure of this entire series, I think he is so much more the mastermind behind this show than Jon Favreau is. Jon Favreau's got the name, he had the clout, and he brought a lot. I'm sure, I'm not trying to say that, but like, he was the one who's like, hey, I got this idea. He found the man to make sure it happened, and he found the man to make it happen the right way. And he's just he is way too smart for that.
Yeah.
Dave Filoni plants seeds that do not germinate for years and years and years, but I know he's the master of George Lucas. I mean, George Lucas, we just talked about the ceremony scene. That was not, that was by accident. And that speaks to there was no plan. No, George knew what he was doing, and he plants these seeds that and Dave Filoni is, baby George.
He's
And,
I was just gonna say that. He's the prodigal son.
Dave Filoni, yeah, he's George's adoptive creative son.
Yeah.
Just realized something, that Tom is Jon Favreau and Bryan is Dave Filoni in this relationship.
Tom does have all the power in this, but that's.
But
yeah, I mean, honestly,
the casual fan and the more like deep diver one.
Nice.
Because those Ugnaughts, that's a deep dive to pull those Ugnaughts in there. Whew. Even though Tom was very excited. He's like, oh my God, I know what those little pig guys are. That's like Kui Caldwell. Cool. What's his name? How do you guys talk about his name?
That's so awesome.
I know who that is now. But, honestly, if you're listening to this podcast, if you're a follower of ours, let's make this happen. Let's, Xi'an is trans. Let's get that. Like, we need more than just queer people to make this happen. So if you are not of the queer experience, but you support us, make this happen. Like it is needed. And I refuse to let it think that it was an accident. That is my, hopefully I don't disappoint myself, but I just refuse, because I believe in Dave Filoni too much. And that man is like everything. I mean, that man is everything for me. So I really want that to be, thank you, Hope, for bringing that to my, thank you for bringing that to me. I never,
Thank other podcasters. I mean, I didn't come up with that. Like, I heard that on other shows. So
it's really wonderful to say. And I am appreciative to those super Star Wars geeks out there that really like go to that detail that I have an inability to get to sometimes. But we thank you everyone for joining us today. As always, next week is our finale, and it's going to be very hard to say goodbye to you every single week. I feel that we have formed a nice little familial bond here over these past few weeks, and I'm incredibly grateful to you all. So there, Mark Marquis, where can we find you?
Yes, you can. I have a podcast called Forever Star Wars. It's on the Clashing Sabers Network. You can follow me on Twitter at DJMMarquis, and also visit us at ClashingSabers.net for some great articles.
Fantastic. Emma?
I can be found on Twitter at Foxfleur, FOXFLEUR, and ship who you want. All ships are valid.
And follow and go read her fiction that was just
don't do that.
No,
it's trash.
No,
Don't do it.
fantastic.
It's trash.
It's
Trash.
fantastic.
Capital T trash.
Ian, where can we find you?
You can find me, Ian Gallagher, at iGallagher321 on Twitter, and stay tuned in the next couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to say that.
Very nice. Very nice. Mark Perez, how about for you?
You can find me on Twitter at I am El Diablito, and I also from time to time can be heard on Taking a Number 2 on the Bad Motivators Patreon.
Fantastic. Hope, take us out.
I just love Taking a Number 2.
And Hope's going to end there.
You can find me at geekygirlexperience.com, where I write about animation, Star Wars, queer topics, and sometimes all three together. I am a co-host of J Guys and Jedi, and you can also find me on Twitter at HopeMolinax.
Fantastic. All right, everybody, let's take us out on a 1, 2, 3. Drink up.
And we're back.
We're back.
That was a wonderful episode. Thank you to all of our co-hosts yet again this week. This roundtable is fantastic.
Absolutely.
We appreciate you so much. Listeners, hopefully you appreciate them as well. If you do, don't forget to head over to Apple Podcasts, write, review, subscribe, all those things. Don't forget to visit us at our socials on both Instagram and Twitter at servingpinkmilk. Follow our friends on the Roundtable with all their Twitter handles linked down below. The article from Jay Justice will be linked down below. Don't forget to say thank you to Maggie, Candace, and Eric. Their Twitter handles linked down below for the wonderful work they did for the Trans Law Center. We appreciate you all so much, and we're going to let you go since this was a really long episode. We appreciate you. Next week is our final roundtable, and we are very, very excited. Thomas, what are we going to go do?
We're going to drink up.
Drink up.
Drink up.
Bye.
Bye now.